Good morning, everyone. I'm Rohan from CTE, and I would like to welcome you all to Master's Chapter of Crossroads, brought to you by CTE Bitscore.
CROSSROADS is a CT event where all your doubts on future career paths would be busted. We have an exciting and enthusiastic panel of seniors doing exceptionally well in their respective fields to enlighten us. Each of them comes with a unique story, from research and internships to GRE prep and applications. So let's get started and dig into choices they made and how it shaped their journey.
First up, we have Sahil Shingote, who is currently pursuing his Master's in Electronics at UW Madison. Over to you, Sahil. Sahil, you are not audible.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. So good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing good. Hey guys, I'm Sahil. I'm currently pursuing my master's in electrical and computer engineering at UW Madison. I'm also a research assistant in the lab called WIMPEC, which works on power electronics and electric machines. Uh, And I guess as most of the panel, I'm also a graduate from the 24 batch. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to solving your whatever queries you have. And yeah, I will. Yeah, Rohan, I'll give it back to you.
If you could provide us some insights about how you went through it, including
Okay.
your
Yeah.
including some of the essential steps, that would be very helpful of you.
Okay. 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 So it's me who is going to speak now for a while. Is that so, Rohan?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Uh, okay. So uh, back when I was applying for masters, GRE was in a situation wherein it was not compulsory to give GRE. In most of the colleges that I applied to, GRE was kind of optional. But I was recommended by my seniors to still uh, like, give the GRE score because they were more of like, okay, it's better to have a GRE score otherwise they will uh, look much more into uh, your GPA and stuff, which honestly, I don't know if that's true, but yeah, I did give the GRE. It's I I had got, as far as I remember, I had got 320, which was like barely the marks that you should have. Apparently, they say that 320 is the mark everyone should aim for. So yeah, I barely got 320. I was not that good at uh, the verbal section of it. If you guys know, the GRE has a verbal and a quant section. The quant is pretty much easy, but for me, the verbal was a bit difficult. Yeah, so I kind of was not, my GRE score was not that good, but yeah, I ended up using it in most of my applications. As far as I remember, I used it in all of them. Apart from that, TOEFL is a requirement. Everyone has to give their TOEFL scores. There is a minimum TOEFL requirement. It varies from university to university, so you'll have to look on their webpage for this. Apart from this, in the TOEFL section, you will have to perform good in the speaking section because there are a lot of opportunities in the US wherein you might have to do a teaching assistantship. A teaching assistantship for an international student coming, not for all international students, but specifically for people coming from India, wherein they don't recognize us as having English as the first language. They would recommend that you should have a TOEFL score in the speaking section at least of 26 or 27 out of 30. Uh, Even this score would vary from your university to university, but pretty much it would remain around this 25, 26, 27 region. So I would say you have to make sure that you practice it well. There are a lot of YouTube videos available. There's a lot of stuff online. I guess even the other guys would kind of tell you about what exactly you can use, but yes, some there is a lot of stuff, and you have to do good in the speaking section if you want to not restrict your opportunities regarding TA ships ahead. Yes, so this was on the examination side for GRE and TOEFL. Uh, yeah.
So one of the biggest debates among students applying for masters abroad is
Yes.
is among research, internships, or development projects. So what was your
Hmm.
focus, and how did that play a role into your eventual decision?
Oh, yeah, that's the question I had back in when I was in my third year. So a lot of I okay in one thing in the electrical department in BITS Goa is that they're really good in microelectronics, computer architecture, uh, and domains regarding related to this. However, I was a person who was not much interested in these domains, and I was more of like a power electronics, electric vehicles guy. Um, so there were not a lot of companies that had come on campus to provide internships, specifically companies in this domain. They had not shown up for internships. So for me, automatically that option had kind of got got off my mind completely that okay, I can't do a summer internship or maybe a PS2 at a place where I would have liked. Uh, so the second option I had is okay, so do I want to do a research internship or maybe like a or work in a lab within a corporate environment uh, within an academia environment. These were like two options in front of me. I chose the corporate thesis option in my case, which was back then it was not a lot of people I talked to had done corporate thesis, but I did go ahead. So I did my corporate thesis at KTM Austria. Um, so the headquarters was based in Salzburg. They did give me a so again, this was not an on-campus opportunity. This was something I found out myself, and and I did talk to a few people who all talked to a few seniors, few other people I knew who were working in Europe, and they told me that in Europe, if you get an opportunity to do a bachelor thesis, even if it's in a corporate environment, it's a great experience because you'll get to do a lot of hands-on stuff. Uh, you'll get to know that European engineering to some extent, and the research aspect is pretty much is what the other people told me is like the research aspect in your internship will be much higher in Europe than it would be in if you worked in like a corporate thesis environment in India. So I did decide to take that opportunity, and turns out it was good for me, is what I think. So yeah, for me that worked out because I was really able to show it up later in my master's application that how influential was this research internship uh, in my career and how it makes me a better fit for the for my admit into the master's universities. Uh, but my suggestion would be that if you work in a research any kind of research environment, there's a higher chance that you'll get a better letter of recommendation. I'm saying so. The reason behind this is that you'll have a lot of professors who will who will give you letter of recommendations only if you work with them for like maybe 6 months at least. if you go on to do a PS2 or like you work within a company in India, the, the person who would be giving you the letter of recommendation would be a manager or maybe a senior manager or something like that. Compared to if you work in a research lab within a university, also did and in my third year I was working remotely with a professor from University of Kiel, Germany. So I was working in a very good lab back then. The professor himself was an IEEE fellow. He had a very good H index back then, and he was willing to give me a letter of recommendation during my master's application. So I think that matters because when these admissions committee will look at your entire profile, this they are going to look okay. A guy, a European professor who is really good at his work has given this guy a letter of recommendation. So this person has some caliber at least, and that's the reason why he's getting all these recommendations. So I would say if you wanna pursue masters, going for a research internship, bachelor thesis, even if it's in a corporate environment, would be the better option compared to if you're just doing your normal summer internships plus maybe a PS2.
So I've noticed that you have a pretty strong background in working with different universities abroad. So how did you come to know about these universities and how did you get started with them?
Yeah. Uh, so there are as soon as as soon as at the end of my second year, I I was actively looking out into what kind of internships are available out there because I got to know pretty soon that the companies coming to the campus are not the ones I want to get an internship into. So I tried looking outside, and then I found there are a lot of international programs for students which provide you scholarships. One of them was MyTax, one and DadWise were the two for which I applied. So MyTax is the one between India and Canada. DadWise is between Germany and India. So I did apply for both of them. From MyTax, unfortunately, I was not able to have any good news from their side. But what happened during my DadWise application was for DadWise, you need to first approach a professor. The professor should then give you some kind of letter of acceptance, which you then use to make your application for DadWise. But turns out that the person I applied to, he kind of replied me a week or 2 weeks after the deadline had passed for advice, and therefore I was not able to apply for the advice application. But he said that okay, if you that's fine, but I can provide you a remote opportunity to work with me under the work with me in his lab. So that's how I got in contact with him. But obviously, it means you have to send in a lot of cold emails. You have to look out for universities out there. You have to basically filter out universities according to your interest. You don't have to just apply to a fancy university you just don't want to run behind the big tags. That's not how it works. It should more of be like you go through the list of 20, 30, maybe German or US universities or wherever you want to go, and you find out particularly which professor you would like to work under. Send him cold email. The email should include about okay, what's exactly that you like about that professor, what which particular topic was something that interested you, and you should just show him that I really want to work with you. What's your reason to work with him? And share whatever experience you have till that point. It at times it can be a bit exhausting. Uh, you might also feel that it's kind of not it's a waste of time. But if you consistently do that, I think everyone should be lucky at least getting one reply. Some of them get it in the first mail itself. Some of them it will for some of them it will take like 20, 30, 40 mails to get that first reply. So that was my I would say my experience in searching these universities and working with different professors.
So, thank you for your insights, Sahil.
Yeah.
Moving on, let's have a combined segment with our next four speakers who will share their journeys one after the other and then take your questions together. Our four speakers are Smriti, who is pursuing her MS in robotics at UPenn, Saransh, who is doing his master's in mechanical engineering from TU Delft, and Ishan Tandon and Ishan Suvarna, who both have completed their mechanical masters on the PhD track from Purdue University. Over to you all.
First, we have Smriti, who is pursuing her MS in robotics at UPenn.
Yeah, just a minute. We're sharing the screen.
I think you guys haven't allowed us to share the screen. You might need to give us permission to do that, I think.
Yes, yes.
Just wait a couple of seconds, it will be fixed.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I hope my screen is visible now.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. All right, Smriti, you can start.
So hi, we'll just like start by introducing ourselves. I'm Smriti. Like I did my bachelor's in mechanical at UPenn, and I'm starting my master's in robotics at UPenn this fall.
Hi everyone, I'm Saransh. I also completed my undergrad in mechanical engineering from Witscoa this year, and I'll be joining TU Delft in the Netherlands to start my master's in mechanical.
Hi, I'm Ishan. I completed my undergrad last year, and then I'm joining. I joined Purdue last semester as a master's thesis, but I've converted to a PhD now. So, yeah.
Hi. So I'm Ishant Suvarna. I graduated last year from BE Mechanical, and I also started my master's thesis in mechanical last year. And I will be converting to PhD next semester.
Okay, so we have some like general slides, and we'll just go over it, and all of us can give our input and what we feel about some things. So just to start with, like, what does a master's degree offer? And so for me, it was I wanted to specialize into robotics, and starting with a bachelor's in mechanical, uh, the master's degree like gave me like more opportunity to like go into like more specific courses before I go for like a job or figure out something in research, like exactly what I want to do. And like, yeah, I decided to apply in the US, so the international exposure. And I'm kind of deciding between like a PhD or not. So this is giving me a sort of buffer time to make that decision too.
Okay,
Um,
so
okay.
yeah, adding to that point, uh, doing a master's also sort of gives you access to world-class research labs. This is more applicable if you, let's say, go abroad. Um, Especially talking about mechanical, the research facilities and labs that you might find outside India are like pretty good, and it also lets you work with some with a lot of professors, which gives you a lot of reach even if you're doing your thesis outside India, that gives you a good platform to sort of get some sort of international exposure. And it also opens a pathway to PhD, which I think Ishan can talk about more.
Yeah, so like the people who go for masters generally like do it for two reasons. Either they want to go towards research, or they want to go for like a job afterwards in US. So for people who want to go for a job later on in US, it's more like it's like a transition period for them. They join masters and then instantly they're looking for internships and job opportunities and other things. So for them, masters is just a transition period where they're doing a couple of courses, but mostly looking for jobs and internships and stuff. But for all four of us, we want to do like more of towards the research side, and even if we go for jobs, it's going to be more towards the research side. For us, our master's track was slightly different. We applied for a thesis masters where you do a lot of research, you work in a lab, and you generally are also paid for it. So there you contact professors and you like apply to the specific domain that you want to apply to, and then in that scenario, like in terms of choosing the university, it matters more about how the lab is compared to how the university is. And then afterwards you can also convert to a PhD if you like the lab, or you can apply to a different university for a PhD later on. Depends on what you like and yeah, how it goes.
Also, just one thing that I'd say, because I think everything has been covered, but a lot of universities, if you're applying for masters, might not necessarily have a separate program just for research. It might be like a specialization that you get to choose towards the end of your first year. But the idea is that when you are applying for masters, it's generally important to have an idea from the start itself what you want to pursue. Are you interested in it for jobs, or are you interested in it for research? So that's something to keep in mind when you do decide.
Yeah, like just like my master's at Penn, it's kind of optional. Like you can branch into a job site, do an internship or a thesis, and that's something I get to decide next year. So that's similar to what Ishan was talking about.
And this sort of segregation between like like a thesis-based master's versus a course-based master's is generally more in the US. Since I applied to a lot of European universities, this wasn't particularly the case over there. So this is one thing that you guys can probably keep in mind in the future, that a lot of US universities like ask you to choose initially between a thesis-based or a course-based master's, whereas in Europe it's mostly a course-based master's, but everyone is also required to do a thesis at the end of their master's. So it's like a mix of both. So moving on now.
Saraj, do you want to start?
Yeah, okay. So I would say that there are these five questions which I asked myself as well when I was deciding whether I would want to opt for a master's. And I would say if you answer yes to at least two to three of these questions, then I think you should consider doing it. The first one would be, have you narrowed down your interest to a particular domain within your branch? Like, let's say right now you are studying mechanical engineering, but you want to, let's say, get into aerospace, automobile, or robotics, or any other particular domain within mechanical. And if you think that you have narrowed that down, you would want to make a career out of it, or you want to go into R&D in that particular domain, then yeah, you should probably consider doing that. The next question would be, do you want to switch fields? This is again similar to the previous question. I have had friends who did their undergrad in mechanical, but wanted to switch to control systems, or let's say data science related fields, and to sort of show their credibility to the recruiters, you sort of need a master's if you are having such a drastic switch between your fields. And the next one would be, do you need specific skills to work in a particular industry? This is again adding up to the previous question. Like, let's say if you want to get into robotics, you probably need some specific skill set, which you might only gain if you do a master's in robotics. And that is what your recruiters might require. The next one would be, do you prefer R&D based roles in corporate? Some of you might not want to get into PhD or academia, or want to get into teaching, but you also prefer or enjoy doing the R&D based roles, but in a corporate. So if you would want to do that, then yeah, maybe. And the last one would be, are you willing to spend at least 18 more months academically inclined? Like, I don't think it's gonna get any easier academics wise. Like, the pressure is always gonna stay higher. And if you think you can commit yourself to 18 more months of rigorous academics, then yeah, I think you can consider that. You guys have anything to add on this?
I don't. I think that covers it for me.
Yeah, I think you've covered everything.
Seems pretty comprehensive. Yes.
Okay. So now, previously I mentioned that if you have decided which particular domain you want to get into, then you should consider for a master's. Now the question is, how do you decide what do you like? And for me, it was by doing it. So at the end of my second year, I was a part of Aero and SAE, where I sort of uh, got into building planes and drones, and also worked on the SAE car. So those were two different aspects of mechanical engineering. It was a little bit of aerospace and aero modeling, along with some sort of automobile engineering. The next thing came from during in my third year, the minor in robotics was introduced. So that sort of led me to work more onto the software part. I also took up some subjects in electronics, control systems particularly, which again gave me some more experience of things outside mechanical engineering. And a lot of my internships, specifically PS1 and SIP, the projects that I was doing, they were heavily based on AI, machine learning, and computer vision, which is again something different from mechanical engineering. So as you can see, I sort of tried to do everything that is within mechanical engineering and also outside of it. I did my thesis in the aerospace department, which gave me research experience, how things work in aerospace. And then it is also pretty important on how you choose your electives. Like, this gives you a good amount of freedom when it comes to choosing your electives. So I chose MEMS and design of autonomous systems amongst others, which were again slightly different from your typical mechanical engineering subjects, and that sort of helped me figure out what I like and what I don't. So that's how I decided which particular domain interests me. Ishan.
Oh, okay. Hello. Okay. So for me, during my undergrad, I think I tried to take up a lot of these dells to explore these topics based using the courses, so that I can learn the basics for them and then see if I like the topic and if I want to do research on that. So for that, I did like control systems and numtech and microfluidics because during my undergrad, I joined aero in my second year, end of first year and second year, and then I was really interested in like fluids, not specifically planes, but in general fluids and CFD and then wind tunnel testing and things like that. So I tried to take up DELs which corresponded to that, and then I also tried to do DOPs and SOPs. So most of my undergrad, I worked with Professor Vaibhav Joshi, starting from 3-2. I think that's when you're allowed to take SOP, and then so 2-2 you're allowed to take SOPs, and then 3-1 onwards you can take DOPs as well. So using that, I was trying to explore research in terms of fluids, where he was working on like different CFD solvers, which he wrote himself, and we were using them to apply to different applications. So that's how I learned the numerical side of things for the fluid domain that I was very interested in. And then later on in Aero, I did a lot of experimental wind tunnel testing work, and then we made a lot of planes, and then we designed planes. So that allowed me to look at the aerospace side of things, how they do things, how they design planes, what's the process, how do we test things, and a bit of basics for that. I was also part of Kratos for a little while, where I got into like CAD design and like a lot of mechanical stuff because Aero was less like hands-on mechanical, but Kratos did a lot more of that. So on the robotic side and on mechanical construction side of things, like so Kratos gave me that kind of a background. In ERC, it gave me a little bit of electronics background, and I could apply the mechanical stuff through robotics. And other than that, through these courses, like in microfluidics, I could do a few course projects, which was part of the course itself, but also do some research with the professor in his lab. So, but I did not like microfluidics. So, like, it's okay to try things out and then not like it. So, I did not try to pursue that any further. I just did that for one semester and then I left it. Um, but then using all of this, I could converge on more towards fluid sides instead of like mechanical design side. So that's when I decided to do my summer internship in this field. So I applied for MyTax. I think Chingote also talked about it. So there are different summer internship programs that you can apply to. You have MyTax, you have DAD, you have one for France as well. There's one for US, but I'm not sure if that's still valid. But these are different research programs you can apply to. Uh, they are a little bit of like CG dependent. Like you need to have a good like CG and then a good background to be able to get selected. But if you do get selected, then you get to go to a different country and then work with other leading researchers in that field. So it's a good experience, it's a good exposure. So that's how I did my summer internship, and then my thesis was also one of these programs which allowed me to do like more towards the computational side of things. So I was working in computational geodynamics. It was a different field, but the basic concept of using simulating fluids was the same thing. So that gave me a little bit of that background. Again, I did not want to go towards geodynamics eventually, but it's just exposure during an undergrad, so it's good to try out things. And then finally, after that, I applied for masters in Purdue, and then right now I'm pursuing a combination of heat transfer and fluids for cooling technologies. It's like a two-phase flow systems. That's roughly my background.
Yeah. So my path was also, I'd say, pretty similar to what Nandan said. So initially, I did not know what I had an interest in mechanical engineering as generally, but I did not know something specific if I wanted to do it. So I took up courses. We have fluid mechanics, which is an introductory course, but then I found that interesting. And so when I had the opportunity to take up more focused courses. I wanted to see more about fluid mechanics, so that's why I took up numerical techniques and microfluidics in, I think, the start of my third year. Um, so, and also simultaneously, I was also working on projects with Shibu Clement, who is the professor of fluid mechanics there. And all of this led to a sort of growing interest in fluid mechanics. I found the topic interesting. I found the research in the areas that I could work on were very interesting. So also apart from the way I mentioned that in my internship and project, I've had a microfluidics project where I was performing simulations of droplet mixing using a software called COMSOL. And during my SOP with Professor Clement, I was working on simulations of flow control using OpenFOAM. So working on these projects and through courses like these, I found like I had a more specific interest in fluid mechanics compared to other branches of mechanical engineering. So when I had the opportunity to look for research internships and then also start thinking about masters, if I wanted to do it, I knew that I wanted to do it in fluid mechanics. uh, when I went for my internship in MyTax, so it depends on the kind of summer internship program that you're looking at. MyTax, the format is that you apply for specific projects based on your interests, and then you get selected, or your professor decides on if they want to take you. So I was generally looking for projects which were related to fluids. So this is something you can also think about if you're applying for research internships in the summer, that you might not need to have something very specific, like some specific subfield or a specific research topic that you need to work on. The idea is that as you gain more research exposure, you'll realize what exactly it is that you want to do, or if something there's more specific that you would like to do. But this is good enough, and so you can start thinking about summer internships and more of a domain for your masters if you want to do it, and if research interests you at all. So that's what you can start thinking about. But I found that through my internship in MyTax, I got to work on wind tunnel testing, and I got to see more on the application side of things of how fluid mechanics was actually used in real life, through both like wind tunnel testing and then performing CFD simulations of different kinds of applications such as wind tunnel blades, and trying to understand the forces acting on a cylinder under different flow regimes, so things like that. And so that's also what led into me trying to for my thesis topic, which was in simulations of axial compressors. So these are compressor blade designs that are used in jet engines and different applications, but mainly in jet engines. And so working on this thesis and working on these simulations also led me to realize that if I want to do a master's, my specific sort of research focus would be things that I'm more interested in, which is applications of fluid mechanics, not like theoretical part, but more like where it's actually used in industries and in the real world. And that also leads on to where I pursued my master's. So during the process of my master's applications, I applied to research labs where they were working on applications such as green energy, or where I am currently working on, which is in hydraulics engineering. So uh, there I get the opportunity to have something that I'm interested in, which is fluid mechanics, and apply it to real world applications. And that's what I found interesting, and that's why I wanted to do my research. So that's how, like, sort of slowly it led to what me deciding that I do want to do research and I would like to do it in this field, in this domain. And apart from this, I also worked in Aero and SAE, and the work that I did in these clubs sort of augmented my general interest towards this, because this is again places where I got the opportunity to apply the knowledge that I had, and I found that fun and found that interesting. And so all of this sort of combined led to my motivation to apply for a master's and pursue what I'm doing right now.
Hi. So, for me, I kind of everything looked a little mixed up because I feel like I tried things in a lot of different domains before I figured out like what I like and what I don't. In terms of the courses and electives, I did a minor degree in robotics, which BITS offers, and that had a lot of relevant courses, so control systems, and the robotics course, it set up a lot of fundamentals really good, that I could be like, okay, I like this, I don't like this, I want to go into this, not into this. and also my exchange semester courses. So last semester was an exchange, and that university had a couple of really good robotics courses. So, and those were structured slightly different from how BITS does it in terms of evaluatives and assignments and projects. So even that gave me a good overview of what things would be like in some fields. And my thesis was in robotics at broad domain robotics at CMU. I worked on multi-agent systems, so planning for multi-agent construction. It's basically I worked mostly on the algorithm side, so algorithm and coding, which was different from my undergrad and previous projects I'd worked on. But I had 6 months, a little more actually, because I was working remotely before I actually went there for my thesis. So I had around like 8 months to explore, figure out, settle into the project, and like get some results out of it. And it also ended up being the reason I wanted to continue my master's and the specific domain of research I want to continue working on now. In internships and projects, I basically tried out like everything I could because at the start I didn't know what I liked. So the first was my PS1 in DRDO, where it was a research internship and I worked on material testing and composites. It was good at the time, but like I realized it's not something I want to do. And I did a SOP at BITS, which was in like design and fabrication of upper limb prosthetics. It was a lot of CAD, a lot of 3D printing, manufacturing, prototyping. And then in the clubs in Aero, we worked on aircraft design and CAD and mechanical design. Even in Kratos, I worked on a lot of hands-on mechanical design. Like Ishan already mentioned, in Aero, it was more on simulation and just the final building. In Kratos, it was more hands-on. Things were more hands-on, and that gave me like two very different but really good experience. And then I worked on an SOP with Ashwin sir at BITS. That was in Continuum Robotics, and that was also the first publication I actually worked on, which was also a different experience. Like I got to like get to the theory, get the code working, and then the experimental results and put it all together to something that can be submitted. And that was good. Another domain of robotics I wanted to try out. And before my thesis, the finals, I did a summer internship before I started my thesis in 4-1 at IISc in Bangalore in soft robotics. So it was experimental analysis of like factors affecting the stiffness of soft robots. So like you can see, like I tried out a lot of different domains. And initially I was worried that, it's gonna look like a mix for my master's application, like just all over the place. But like after I got done with my application, I was like, that's okay. Like it's okay to try out like different things before you actually decide what you want to work on. So that was all the projects. And the clubs I kind of covered already. Aero, Kratos, and ERC in my first year gave me a lot of exposure to just general robotics projects and things and domains. So after that, I wasn't too involved. Aero took up most of my time, but this was basically everything I did during my undergrad. Yeah.
Okay, so that was it from our like first gave our own perspective of how we sort of did things along the way in our undergrad and sort of decided to fix up a domain that we liked. And then these are some points which I thought that you should also keep in mind. And if you think the following, you should probably not go for a master's. So if you're still unsure about your niche or specialization, like until like by the end of your third year, if you still think that there's not one particular thing that interests you or you haven't found a particular focus area that you would want to continue working on, that's one thing. The second one would be just because you think placements are bad and you think that there's not any particular company which interests your role or if you think that you want to get into particular domain and there's no company offering that, that's one aspect of thinking it, but that should not be just the deciding factor. And the final one would be if you think that you could buy some more time, if you think that you could avoid getting into a job or like taking up a master's and for 2 years you would not have to take up a corporate role. If that's your mentality, that's not the right way of thinking and going about it. So yeah, that's another thing. Guys, you want to add on to this?
I think that's good. We'll talk about more like in the later slides. I think some of
Okay.
these topics. Yeah.
Um, yeah, Ishan, do you want to take this up?
Oh, me? Okay. Um, so yeah, so when you're applying for masters, okay, so as I mentioned before, there are two kinds of masters. One is when you're doing like a professional masters and you want to go for a job after that, versus when you're doing like a research-based masters. So in a lot of universities, when you're doing research, they pay you. You're paid like a stipend, and they also sometimes pay your tuition and stuff. So you don't have to pay as much, but you have to work in the lab. So it's like you're doing courses plus you're working at the lab. So you're basically working for the university. You're like kind of like staff there. Um, but if you're doing like a professional masters where you're trying to do some courses and then look for a job in US and go there, in those cases, you rarely have funding. So in that scenario, you'll probably have to pay the whole tuition. You'll have to pay the living expenses, which can add up to like a big amount. Like if I had to give like a rough estimate, it depends on like which university you're going to, which city you're going through, because the living cost is different, the tuition is different, and everything. But like it's like it's like 80 90 lakhs to like a crore or something, like if you want to include your tuition plus your living expenses. So a lot of people take up loans and then plan to pay off that when they get a job, because if you're working in US and if you're not spending too much, you can save up a decent amount and pay off your loans in like a couple of years, like 3 2 3 years 4 years max. So that is like a good return of the investment, but then you have to be careful if you're taking up like that much money as a loan and then going for a job outside, because even like right now things are quite dicey. So yeah, you can't be sure. So be careful when you're going for masters and like when you make that decision. Um, um, the cultural thing is very subjective. I would say, like it depends. Some people get a little more homesick compared to others. Some people are completely fine with it. If you've had, if you're not, I mean, things like if you're vegetarian, if that might affect you. Things like what's your routine, like so yeah, it's a lot of things like living alone, cooking yourself, like living with people. If you find like good friends there, that all that matters, and then that's very subjective. But yeah, that's a big factor. But that's not something you really consider before going. That's something you try to deal with once you go there, and then try to make do of things. You guys want to add something to that?
Yeah, just one thing I would like to add is that just if you are planning on going on a master's, don't depend on having like funding or scholarships like all the time. Be prepared to fully pay for it, because a lot of universities will offer some kind of an assistantship or something, but it's it's not something that you can always rely on. So don't go with the idea that you'll always get a funded master's, or uh, it's in some way like you don't won't need to get to pay for it. It's very rare that that does happen. So make sure to keep the costs of doing a graduate program as part of your when you look up these programs and think about going for a master's.
Actually, just to add to that, like so it's very variable from a university to the other. Like if you look at Purdue, for example, Purdue, if you're doing a master's with a thesis, if you're doing research, then it's always funded. They pay for the tuition, they pay for your living expenses as well. So you don't have to spend your own money. But if you look at UPenn, for example, or if you look at Stanford, for example, they do not give you funding from before. You generally have to like go to the lab and then apply for it once you're in the university. Then you can get like partial funding for a semester when you're working in the lab. You might cover your living expenses just barely, but tuition and stuff you still have to pay. So it's varying. Like I think Stanford does pay for the tuition, but the living expenses they don't cover the whole thing. Um, in UC Berkeley, they don't have scholarships for masters. They don't even take like just thesis master students. They take PhD students. PhDs are always funded. For masters, it's a very variable from one university to the other. So you might have to check that based on where you're applying. And then, as Suvarna said, don't expect funding. You might get it. You might not have to pay as much. You might not have to pay anything once you go there if you get something every semester. But like prepare for the worst possible scenario where you don't get it because everybody does not. It's limited.
Adding to the assistantship point, since Ishan mentioned it, this might be a little difficult in the case of Europe, since a lot of their undergrad programs are in their own languages. Like if you go to Germany or Italy or Netherlands, their undergrad programs are in German, Italian, or Dutch, and it's practically impossible for an English-speaking master student to be offered an RA-ship or a TA-ship. So this is also something that you should keep in mind that outside of US or UK, language can be a problem, and especially even more if you're thinking of applying for an RA-ship and the undergrad programs are in their own languages. So moving on, we'll cover in brief about the master's application, and Ishan Suvarna can talk more about it.
Yeah, so these are sort of the general requirements that are part of master's applications. There are specifics that depend on, like, might be specific to a particular university or program, but these are the things that are generally required. So you need letters of recommendation. Generally, two are needed, but it's recommended to have at least three to four in mind, or like people who you know, who you can ask for letters of recommendation. Uh, and also, generally, the division is that you have two letters of recommendation from academic professors or someone in academia, and a third could be someone from like an internship supervisor or a different kind of a professor is not related to your academic uh, work necessarily, but might be like a faculty advisor for your PS project or something like that. But two at least is recommended that you have from professors who have either taken up courses or you have done like SOPs or DOPs under. GPA is important. Maybe again, like it's mentioned, it's not so important to in order to get jobs there, but for master's program, it's very important because it is sort of like the main number that is sort of there as part of that describes your academic work. So while you might have done well in specific courses and stuff, an overall GPA being good is generally very useful. So it's important to keep that in mind. Uh, GRE used to be very compulsory in a lot of places, but since COVID, it's become optional. Most programs don't even have that as like a requirement at all. Like they don't even need you to fill it in. Some programs have it as an optional. So if you have a good GRE score, then it can help build up like other parts of your profile which might be weak, like a slightly lower GPA, or maybe you don't have enough publications or not enough of a research profile, then a good GRE score can help compensate for that. But again, this is it's getting lesser and lesser now, so it's you need to look into this programs
Yeah.
that you are
Just a bit
applying.
background, like Suvarna did give GRE. I did not give GRE. Smriti, I think, gave GRE for just for
Yeah.
one university. Saransh, what about you?
I did not
Did
get
not give,
GRE.
right?
Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
previously almost everyone used to give GRE, but now it depends. Like so for me, uh, uh, all the universities I was applying to either had it optional or did not need it. Just one university needed it, but I ended up just changing that university to something else instead of giving a GRE. But it's like a long 2 month, 2+ month prep, and it's a kind of like a shitty exam. I don't like it. So I think everyone agrees on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the thing is, when I was applying, some universities which had waived off GRE previously kind of brought it back as a requirement. Like when I applied to CMU, they reintroduced that, okay, no, you need the GRE score, you need like a minimum score in each section, but it was still optional or like just not allowed to submit in a lot of my universities. I think I just submitted to three or four places in total, but yeah, GRE is not that important anymore.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
only
and
branch which still requires GRE as a compulsion is, I think, aerospace. That's compulsory for a lot of the universities
Oh
that
yeah,
have
like
open.
in some universities, some branches need the GRE
Yeah,
always like make a list of your requirements, figure this out a few months before you apply, so you know if you really need to do it or not.
Yeah, and also on that point of it is a commitment. You need to give some time to prep for GRE. It's a difficult exam, relatively, especially the uh, literature and the English section of it. It is you need some time to prep for it, and also it is a financial commitment. You do need to pay a lot of money to give that exam. So if it's not required, then you can also save up on some money and save up on your time. I gave my GRE because I had some time in my second year and so I thought it might be useful to just give it. But again, if it's not necessary, then perhaps it's not really needed. But what you do need, and most universities generally require, it's not just as a university requirement. You also need it as part of your visa. For the US, is English proficiencies. That could be either the TOEFL or the IELTS exam. There's also a number of other ways in which people universities also consider an English proficiency, but generally these are the two main exams that people do. GregMat, there are a large number of nice resources. You can find a lot of them online. GregMat is also a very nice site to prep for it. These are all like exams, but apart from that, most college applications also need you to submit essays. This involves first, an academic statement of purpose, which is mostly describing your academic motivations for why you want to pursue master's programs. You talk about what work you've done in university and why you think you're a good fit for the master's program. This is specific to a college. It depends from college to college, but uh, that's one. And then apart from that, you have a personal history statement, which is like a personal motivation for why you think that you are capable to do, like, go to a different country and you're willing to live there and you're willing to do a graduate program. What are your personal motivations for it? That sort of stuff. So these are like the general requirements for master's applications.
Yeah.
You guys
And
think
the
so?
statement of purpose, like it needs to be like by yourself, really personalized and really good because everyone is submitting their grades. Everyone, this is what kind of makes you stand out. So start a draft early, get it reviewed by like everyone around you, like your seniors, your professors, people you're working with, people you've worked with before. It just like they have input that you don't really see when you're writing it yourself. And also about the letters of recommendation, and this kind of ties up with Lisa's questions where she asked how I applied to 10 universities, and some of the professors were not really up to write 10 letters for me for each place. So it helped that I had like more options of more people, like from my summer internship, from my PS, from my thesis, and even just postdocs at the lab I was working at who were all ready to write. So I could sort of ask some people to write my different, like bunch them up and submit different letters to different universities. So three is recommended, but in your head, try to have more people who would be willing to write you a letter when you're applying.
I'll
And
just add one more
yeah,
thing for the SOPs and stuff. So as mentioned, like start early and like start a draft early, and like sometimes you might feel like I mean this is later on. I mean I don't know how much you need this information right now, but then when you're applying for these applications, you need to write it in a certain way, and you might write something yourself and feel like, oh, this is really nice, but when somebody else reads it, it does not come off as you intended to. So try to review the earliest draft as early as possible, even if it's not the final draft. But then you can start structuring it very early, and then it'll really help you. Otherwise, sometimes you write a lot of stuff but then later on you realize it's really bad, and then you have to start over again. So try to get it reviewed very early with seniors and other people. But also don't read other people's SOPs that much. Try to write something yourself, and then read other people's SOPs, because then you're not original at that point.
and also, like what Kriti asked, like for dualites, is it required to do MS before PhD? You don't need to do an MS before a PhD. Like I applied to a lot of direct PhD programs and master's programs because I was still deciding, and I did get admits to like direct PhDs without masters. So you don't really need a master's before a PhD. It helps, but you don't need it.
Well, let's take up a few of the questions. So, what's the ideal CGPA universities are looking for? I don't know. Like it doesn't. There is no ideal CGPA. Like the higher the better in general. Um, like, but try to get like 8 plus at least. Uh, Below 8 is a little low if you're applying for masters, and then try to get it as close to 9 as possible if you can. Also, when you're applying, you scale your GPA based on like the four pointer scale format that they use in US. So if you have a CGPA out of 10, it looks completely different out of scale 4 because they have a different scaling as well. Like for us, we have A minus 10 and 9, but for them A minus is both 4. So it kind of changes when you're converting your CGPA as well. So that's a little different. Um,
Also, I would like to add one thing, Ishan,
yeah.
to this one is your CGPA. I guess the 4.1 is something that would go in for application, right? If you're applying right after your bachelor's,
Actually,
the
3-2,
CGPA.
because
Yeah, it was
some
3.2,
3-2.
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
3.2, 3.2, yeah.
like some applications that are in like late Jan and Feb, a lot of Europe applications. For them, you can probably do 4-1, but for others, yeah, 3-2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the latest that I have seen is like around 15th Jan to 30th Jan, which is some of the European ones. And only that's the case when you can give your 4.1 CG, but assume it to be 3.2.
Yeah, I think Canadian University is also kind of like late Jan to early Feb ish. So you can probably do 4 months because that really helps, right? If you're doing like a thesis and you'll probably get an A, so you can bump up your CGPA quite a bit. But for most universities, you're going to be using your 3.2 CGPA.
Yeah, like a lot of US universities have deadlines in December, mid December, almost all of them. And early deadlines for some applications are September, November. So your 3.2 CGPA is what you have to keep in mind if you're applying to the US.
Yeah. Some universities also have like scholarship programs which have a deadline even before the application deadline. So watch out for that. I missed a few at least
Yeah.
because I didn't know. And then you probably have to start during the summer preparing for all of this stuff. Um, do club PORs help with application? I think this is a very biased perspective because all of us are PORs. But what do you guys want to add? I don't know.
I think it helps, like, even just the technical work, you're more, apart from the technical work, you're more responsible for people, for projects, and that is soft skills you really need. I found it helpful even when I was just working on my thesis because I was on a project all by myself, working on something new, and just soft skills I'd picked up during my POR, like conveying information, working on things, making deadlines, timelines, that helped. So I would say the POR really helped. For me, the technical aspect was very different, like aircraft design and algorithms for planning. But I think overall it helped me out a lot.
Yeah, it might not be a deciding factor for you, obviously, but as Smriti mentioned, that these soft skills that you acquire as a POR, working with a lot of people, managing a team, leading a project, these tiny skills do add up in the end. And the way you convey them in your resume or your SOP are what makes it stand out, and it does end up helping you in the end.
Yeah, like sure, publications help and all of that, but also the PR, the involvement I had, it, I think I cannot like quantify how much it helped, but the way I presented it in my statement of purpose, how it like led me figure out what I want to do, and even how it looked in my CV definitely helped with my overall application.
Mhm. Yeah, but also try don't compromise your academics for a POR. Like only take up a POR if you're comfortable with your academics and you feel you'll be able to manage. because I think that's objectively that's more important when you're applying for masters. Um, is it a bad time for international students to go to US? I will not take up that question considering the recent events.
Okay,
Um,
so I think things are just very dynamic and we can't really say anything right now. Like, this might be a bad time, this might be better than next, like, you don't really know. So, I think apply with the universities you have in mind, the work you want to do. The rest, I guess, it's just something to figure out.
I
yeah,
think it's just a little more volatile than it was because earlier you knew that if you had a program and you had an admit, you could always go. But right now it's changing all the time. So that's just another factor that you need to consider when you look at programs in the US. Is how I would
yeah.
think
I don't
about
know.
it.
I've been getting like so many news, like on like at least I've been getting so many recommendations of like people who are getting rejected for visas and stuff. But then also, when I was doing my application last year, I like the two people in front of me got rejected. So I don't know if the amount of rejections have gone up really, or is it just that it's being reported more? Because a lot of people did get rejected even before. So I don't know what's the scenario for like visa success rates and things like that. It's I don't know. It's very
Yeah,
volatile.
there is a lot of news out there that's flaring up, but the ones I know, like in my program, who've done their appointments, I don't know anyone who got rejected. So I don't know like what is actually going on. Like, sure, like things are not great, but wouldn't. I don't think I can say if it's a good time to apply or not.
Yeah. Um. Okay. How do you go about choosing which college to do your thesis or masters? Um. While I understand most of you had 8.5 plus CG, some of us don't. How do you tackle that? I don't know who wants to take up this.
The first one, yeah, like how do you find universities? It's kind of, for me, at least for my thesis, it was through common research, like things I was interested in, be like, okay, who are the authors, look up the lab, look up the university, and then approach the professors. And I did that when I was looking cold mailing for a thesis. And I did the same thing when I was applying for a master's because I wanted to do a research based master's. So it was mainly like, and even connections, like while I did my thesis I met a lot of people, a lot of professors from different universities, and like I looked up their work. So for me it was interest in work and then who's working on it and contacting them. So that's one way to like list down universities you want to apply to.
So I would like to share one of my experiences. It's not, it's from one of my lab mates right now. So he's from India. He did not have a very great CGPA when he applied to the university, but turns out he was able to the letter of recommendation uh, he got from that professor knew one of the professors in my lab. So that was the connection that worked in his favor, and he was pretty proactive in approaching this professor early, like even while he was applying for the masters. That was the time he approached this professor, and that kind of helped him get rid of that CGPA barrier completely, and he did get into the research program. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, do LRs need to be personalized for each university, or it can be general? I think so. How the LRs work is um, you enter the email address of the professor or whoever is writing your letter, and they get a link directly where they need to upload an LOR. So it's usually not personalized that much, but it kind of depends on your professor or whoever's writing the letters. It's not really something you need to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, professors generally have an idea of what to write for otherwise, especially if they're like people who have done it before. So doesn't you don't need to worry too much about it as long as your professor is agreeing to write a letter for you. It's fine.
And I don't think CG is a big factor with it when it comes to getting a university for your thesis, at least. Like for masters, yes, it is. But you don't need an exceptionally high CGPA for a thesis. So if you think you are lacking there, you could probably aim to work under a good professor for your thesis, get a good lab, and then do some good work and get a good LOR out of them. So that can sort of, make up for if you think that you have a slightly lower GPA, that can definitely
Yeah,
boost
like
your profile.
your projects and research, like everything else in your profile can always make up for it. But it's good if you can also just bring up the CG before
I think
your.
I'll add for dualites, if you're aiming for a PhD, your CGPA does not matter. Um, for
Mhm.
PhDs, CGPA does not matter. No.
I think as long
Um,
as it's above the minimum requirement that the program has, it's fine.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And there's another question. Will having work experience help make my application better for masters? So I don't have any work. I did have research experience, but not really corporate or a full-time job experience before I applied because I applied right during my undergrad. So I don't think I'm the right person to answer this, but I have seen it depends on the master's program too. For certain programs which are industry oriented, valid work experience adds on a lot to your profile. And even if it's research oriented, if it was a related field, it still adds on. I but no, I don't know too much about it.
Yeah, I think for like if you want to go for jobs later, work experience is important, especially if you're trying to go for a master's and then like you're trying to go, if you're trying to go for a professional master's and then do a job afterwards, you will have to do an internship during your summer in your first year at the university, and then it's nice to have some work experience from before because when you're applying for internships, even then they'll be looking at your background. So for professional masters, it's kind of more important. For research-based masters, not that much. How many colleges did you apply to? I applied to around 10, I think. Uh, you guys? I don't know.
Yeah, me too. It was 10, but I ended up doing a couple more applications because I mostly applied to PhD programs. And in some places, just to be safe, I applied for PhD and master's.
Yeah.
But it was around 10 universities.
I
Some
think I
places,
might be the odd one here. I applied to just four.
yeah. Yeah, I think some places, regarding PhD versus MS, some places have um, just MS, some places have just PhD separately, some places have MS plus PhD as a couple thing where you have to do both. So it's a longer commitment. So that depends on the university that you apply to.
Mm,
Can you suggest few research summer internships places which we could apply? Specifically, robotics would be helpful. Smriti, do you want to take on that?
yeah, so there are a lot of robotics startups within India that you could look into. Like, I could probably share them later. But okay, research. So these robotic startups work in R&D, but it's not. They do have R&D domains, but if you're looking for research in a university, IISc has really good labs and a lot of professors working in robotics. So there's Robert Bosch Center. That's a good place. And recently they like moved to like a bigger lab, bigger facilities, more resources. So I think they also have a lot of openings. I got my summer internship also by cold mailing. So that is something you can do, like just look up the professor, someone, a project you're interested in, and send out a mail. So I did the cold mailing for my summer internship, which I did at IISc, and also my thesis. So that works for both things. So just You can send out emails and ask for referrals. Maybe like you can always find uh, seniors from bits who have worked in the labs like almost everywhere. Like you can always look up, and maybe like a few years ago or even before that, there was someone who did an internship there, and they can always refer you or just put in a good word. So that helps. And just check out for that in general when you're applying.
Yeah, on that, I think the alumni relations cell, I don't know what they're called right now, but they do have a list of like alumni and what they're doing right now. So if you are interested in a domain and like you have this particular field that you do want to look into, you can always look up people from your branch or people from the university who have gone to that field earlier or who have uh, worked in specific labs that you're interested in, and you can always get in touch with them because that's always very useful to do.
And there's another question like suggest summer internships for experimental side of fluid dynamics. I think you guys would be better to answer that.
Yeah, so once again, I'm not sure about any program specifically, but one like just like Smithy said, that cold mating always works. So you can look up labs either based on where you want to go, either outside the outside India or in India, different IITs, and you can cold mail them and look into getting summer internships either at their labs or if they have some specific program at an IIT, then you can try looking into that as well. So that's probably like the best I can suggest right now. Earlier, of course, we had like other programs like MyDax, and there you could find projects which were specifically related to experimental
So let's
fluid
just list
dynamics, but
down
not
like
now.
the
Yeah.
funded programs at least. So you have PyTax where Suvarna and I went to. This is a Canadian program where I actually don't know. Do they are they still operating? Is it?
No, no, no.
I
Dart
don't
and
think
MyDax both
so.
are stopped right
Yeah,
now.
and
Yeah, I
even
think they've stopped it.
CMU had a summer school, but that is also discontinued for Indian
Yeah,
students.
I think most of these programs had funding issues from the Indian side. I think at least from the Canadian program, India cut off funding, so now they've stopped that. For that, I think the contract ended or something. I don't know if they're still trying to renew it or something. But watch out for that. Maybe there are more. Maybe some new programs come up. But these two major programs, which a lot of students went for, are not operating anymore. So that's kind of sad. But again, as people said, cold mailing and then looking for other programs, that's an opportunity. Um, oh,
We
the
are
Do
actually
we take
running
up
out
the
of
next
time.
slide now?
what?
Do we take up the next
Actually,
slide now?
we are actually running out of time. So thank you, Ishan, Smriti, Saranj, and Ishan for these incredible insights. I think you have answered almost all the queries that most of the students have regarding applying to masters. Now, I would like to invite Sahil to tell some more points about pursuing masters in the fields of electrical and CS.
Yeah. Do you want me to?
Yes, yes,
Am I on?
yes.
Yeah. In the field of electronics and computer sciences, I would say that in the US right now, uh, I'm I have not personally experienced it though, but there are the CS field is kind of getting more. A lot of people are coming in, and then the job thing might be to some extent an issue. But the electronics field right now is kind of fine, is what I would say. From the POV of master's application, one thing I noticed back then was that your grades in respective courses of interest. I mean, if you're applying for master's in electrical and computer engineering, and your core domain is for me was power electronics. For people, it might be computer architecture or whatever. The grades in those particular subjects would matter. You can't can't just flunk your grades in those ones and have a overall CGPA, but not good at what you're applying for. So I would highly recommend that you should have good work. Also, you try you would want to it's more of similar to the other people also from mechanical engineering is what I think, but you would have to align your profile towards uh, what your ultimate career goals are. If you want to pursue your masters in power electronics, you would have to align your um, I would just like to share on like how I kind of aligned my uh, can I share my screen here or Rohan? Can I share my screen?
Yes,
Yes, you should be able to.
Um, I hope it is visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah. So this is just what I did before my masters to kind of align my uh, master to kind of align where I want to go. So yeah, I was uh, captain of the electric vehicle team, and also so why did I choose being captain of the electric vehicle team is because I wanted to make a career uh, further in the electric vehicle domain. So it kind of made sense that it would also give me the technical aspects of a vehicle design as well as holistically develop me, give those leadership skills and stuff. So that's what I did to align my application there. The second thing I did is I worked with KTM. Again, in KTM I was working with some of the craziest stuffs for electric vehicles. So again, I tried to align it towards what I wanted to do. Similar with as I mentioned you before, the University of Kiel intern I did, that was also on batteries and power electronics. Uh, so that is something I made sure that along my way from my third year to my application, all the stuff I do kind of build helps me build my story for my applications. So you guys will be making your SOPs. Your SOP is something that should have like a story of what you're doing. So that's how I try to align my uh, personal achievements. Also took my decisions kind of carefully about what I'm trying to do and not. Uh, I would rather say it was I was more conservative about what I'm doing and not tried a lot of fields though. But yeah, it works out. Yeah, so this is something this is how I aligned my application. Also, apart from this, I would like to just yeah uh, talk about stuff after my admit. So as the other guys mentioned, they all of them, I guess all of them are into research masters, is what I heard. But unfortunately, I did not get into one of the research masters. So I did apply to six of them. I got into four of these universities. All of them was in the domain of power electronics. But yeah, I did not get a research admit. So yeah, what I did is I did contact few of my seniors regarding this on what should be my next step. Each and every one of them kind of suggested that you should go to universities which have good coursework, which have good labs and stuff, and that's how I made my decision to come to UW Madison. While I was doing this, since I did not have a research admit, the first thing as soon as I came on campus the first thing I did was I tried to approach the professors here. I tried to get just the way how SOPs work in bits. There is also like an independent study thing that works in the US. I tried to get in touch with few of the professors here, and turns out one of the professor was undergrad from she was undergrad from BITS, Pilani, and yeah, that kind of you connect those things somehow. These things help you. So turns out she's an alumni, and yeah, she knows that what kind of culture we have in BITS, what kind of rigorous courses we go through, and then yeah, she gave me an opportunity to work with her, and now she has helped me change my professional admit to a research one, which helps me with all these, as the other guys mentioned, it helps you with the funding stuff, uh, and all of that. So I think once you get your admit, or even before your admit, I would say you have to be proactive. Yeah, these were the lessons I learned. I did not work on my SOP since the beginning, so that's something I would like you guys to work on. Also, build your story is what I would say. Make sure everything you do kind of you can relate it to what you want to achieve in your masters. Uh, yeah, a few other things that I skipped on is uh, yeah, apply. Look for the application deadlines carefully because I missed on few of them. So there are two kind of application deadlines, wherein the first one would be on uh, ones in which you want to apply for fellowships. The other ones would be you don't want to apply for fellowships at all and just for the admissions. Yeah, do look into this. Yeah, I did not contact professors beforehand. That is something I told you. Like I did it after coming here. It worked in my favor, but it might not work always. So I think that is something you should look for. And yeah, work experience. Now that I feel the kind of job market it is here, some it might have been good if I had some kind of work experience, but yeah, now that I have research experience, maybe let's see how things go on.
Thank you for your insights, Sahil. So, as we wrap our session for the master's part, a big thank you for all our speakers for their valuable contribution. Up next, we'll have the jobs part of Crossroads, hosted by Yatin and Dhananjay. Over to you, Dhananjay.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dhananjay, and I'll be your host for the JAWS part of Crossroad. So we just came from the Masters panel, and I hope that it provide some strong insights as to what the process is all about. Now we'll look into this section of jobs. So to help oversee everything, we have a brilliant panel who have been there and done it themselves. All of our panelists have their own experiences from internships and club work to research and placements and struggles, and finally getting that first job. So if you're interested, confused, or totally ambivalent, this session should clear things up.
Hi everyone, I'm Yatin from CTE. Let's start by welcoming our first panelist, Pratik Upadhyay, working as a software engineer at Catalogus.
Hello everyone. Uh, I hope everyone's doing well. Is my camera visible? I'll just share
Yes.
my.
Yeah, it's visible.
Thanks, sir. So, hope my screen is visible as well. Can someone confirm if my screen is visible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks everyone for taking the time to join us today. I'll be sharing a piece of my perspective about the journey after grad school so far, and I think let's get into it. So before I dive into the solid content of what I want to talk about, I think the major issue with uh, graduating in today's world is sort of like the overwhelming uncertainty you all have to deal with everything that's going on right now. So it's very important to have sort of these guiding principles that help you decide in these uncertain times. And these are some things that help me, right? The first thing is short, mid, and long term policy. And this is something that's truly helped me take the tough decisions. A lot of what we do sort of falls in the midterm category, as in we try to optimize for internships, companies, universities, the best package, the most glorious or glamorous positions, but often we end up overlooking the short term and long term things which actually end up mattering the most. The short term question you should ask yourself is whatever you're doing, does it excite you on a daily basis? Excitement should not be confused with happiness and consistent just want the feeling of wanting to do it every day. There is boredom involved in everything, no matter which path you take. But is it interesting enough to keep you engaged on a daily basis? That is your short term thing. And your long term question is uh, does the choice of work that you're doing does it provide any meaning and satisfaction to you? I think this is probably the most important thing in life. If you have all the money in the world and whatnot, but you're not satisfied at the end, you will spiral out eventually. And this is sort of what has guided all my decisions throughout college. Another points two and three is sort of something I learned along the way, especially during my fourth year. I think a lot of the choices I made were biased out of fear of rejection or like how it would appear on my resume. So to those secondies and thirties and forties, if you sort of have a gut feeling that it will work out for you given enough effort or the experience is worth it, just take the shot, right? And don't hold yourself back because in 1 or 2 years' time, if you're hardworking and consistent, it sort of evens out, right? You're very young in your career stage. You can take all the risks that you want. So I think you should do it. And another thing is, as you move on from your second year towards your third and fourth years, it's preferable to sort of have a direction when you look at your resume. It's very good to explore. None of us have concrete ideas about what we want to be, and your interests will keep changing. But sort of, have some direction which will help you take choices and make career decisions. Okay, then let's get to it after this. I'll start off by sort of giving you an idea of what I did in my college life and where I'm at right now. So I graduated with a degree in computer science, and initially, I was around my second year. I was super interested in machine learning research. I did like one SOP with DTD, and then that sort of like blew my mind. I'm like, shit, this is the future, but whatever. So I did one formal SOP with AppCare in my final year, and I sort of was also very interested in hardware. And unfortunately, I hadn't applied to like robotics club or anything in my first 2 years. And I was in SEDS, and this whole idea of space tech and self-landing rockets was sort of very extremely interesting to me. So I started Project Rocketry. I hope it's doing well in college. I'm not checked in on them. And we sort of built our first flight computer, and we experimented with thrust vector control. So I did not, end up pursuing a career in this, but it was a very, very good experience out of college, and that's totally all right. I sort of have closure and an idea of what a life in this field would look like, but I decided to sort of pursue research further, which is why I applied for a thesis instead of a PS. Unfortunately, my experience in bits with research wasn't as good, which I realized once I went to my thesis. And this is where the true freedom of exploration I experienced for the first time. And I got to work on some really interesting problem statements. We were sort of trying to identify how can you determine if a person has laryngeal cancers or is developing laryngeal cancers based on their PT scans, sort of like a preemptive approach to treating cancer. And then, guided by this, also during this time, I did it in my 4-1. So, this was a 4-1 thesis. The logic was I never really wanted to go into big tech from the start. I'll explain later on why this is my thought process. So, usually big techs come in SEM1 and you have your mid and small companies coming in SEM2. But the issue was the situation was so bad that the companies that were coming didn't offer anything worthwhile. So I diverted my attention to a place where I can actually learn and explore things that are meaningful. And fortunately enough, there was a Kotak pre-doctoral fellowship being offered by IISc, and I applied for it and got through. And it is sort of there that I got to experience the life of a PhD. Now, graduating, I didn't really have the profile to apply for a master's or a PhD. This is because I think I spent too much time exploring things, right? So I had like an 8.1 CGPA, but I did not have any papers. I had good experiences, and sort of my mind was oriented towards doing a PhD, and it's not really ideal to apply without publications. And here I not only did I experience good quality research, I also sort of understood the lifestyle. Unfortunately, the problem statement that the lab was working on sort of stagnated. I spent 9 to 10 months working my ass off for the longest time, and we tried many interesting ideas, and we sort of had people from all around the world come in. Like the professor I was working with, Rajiv Rajan, he's one of the brightest minds in the field, and he's connected to a lot of people. And it sort of seemed like most of the papers that were being published were in terms of data sets. There was no algorithmic novelty, and that wasn't something that my lab would be able to do. And this is the point at which I decided to switch into industry, because I was always intrigued by what it is like to solve consumer oriented problems. And that is what brings me to the startup Catalogous. The good thing about this place is it's much higher pay, obviously. So when I'm sad, I can just go buy whatever I want. And the problems are business and consumer driven. So, a stark contrast to exploring every idea you want. Most ideas, though interesting, are not feasible commercially. So, you sort of catch on to these sort of things. Now, coming to this graph, sort of a tree, this is what DSA does to a person. All your thoughts become trees. But yeah, I think the post-grad stuff is being covered by the previous speakers. And once you enter the job market, I think the two forks that you encounter are sort of research and industry, right? Now, the pros of research, there are pros and cons to everything, by the way. So accepting these things is very important before you take a decision. Now, the pros of research is the problems you work on are awesome. Okay, they're super interesting. If you're a technical person, you like working on interesting tech problems. You've enjoyed your courses at BITS, even though they're not conducted as well as they could be. But you enjoy the content of the courses, then you should sort of think about going into research. What this does is it sort of builds your competence in a specific niche. And I think moving forward, given that a lot of your AI is becoming a really good generalist, so I think having some niche knowledge is always helpful. And another thing that really excited me about research is, given the problem statement, you're at the forefront of what is known. You're thinking about solutions that no one else is. On the contrast, in the industry, there is this sort of urgency, which is fun in its own way, that the problems that you think of impact sort of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, as compared to you just making prototypes and being in research. And you get exposed to consumer psychology, how things work within the office, how you have to present yourself. And it's not just enough to have a good idea, but conveying it forward in a really impactful manner also helps a lot. And within research, I think you have two options. You have a lot of your pre-doctoral programs like MSR and Google Pre-Doc, which is what I consider as industry. And you have like university labs. Industry pre-doctoral programs have their application periods. I'm not sure when, and they have links and good procedures to follow through. And university labs, on the other end, are sort of like cold mailing approaches. You go to the university's websites, you sort of read up what the professor is doing, and it's a trial and error sort of thing. It requires a lot of luck, regardless of your profile. Now, thinking about if you're sort of like personally, I will do post grad. It's just that I needed some time to get clarity before I went there. And given the situation that the US is in right now, it was, it is something that it's not a decision to be taken lightly. So if when you're thinking about research, I'd suggest having research roles prioritized over university labs, unless the lab you get into is a very well reputed lab or the professor you're working with is very well reputed, because you'll get exposed to a lot of the perspectives of very experienced people, and these LORs will help on later. And coming to the industry, I think the experience with startup and big tech is vastly different. So if you're in a position where your people don't depend upon you, right? I'm very privileged in the sense that I don't have to send money back home. That I didn't have to take any loans for my kids' education, right? So if you're in a similar position, I strongly urge you to prioritize building competence and gaining exposure, which is what you sort of gain in startups. Fun fact, places like Uber and DevRev are also startups, but you have things which are of smaller scale, and that is what Catalogus is. Because here I'm getting to do sort of everything. Like I'm getting to do a bit of product management. I also manage my own clients, so I'm getting to see how you do a bit of the sales. You sort of lie to the clients about the timeline, and then how that boils down within the organization and how it gets implemented. So I'm getting a perspective of how do you build solutions for very large scale in the future. Now, the pro for big tech is awesome pay, everything. It's just that it'll take longer for you to sort of be involved in projects that have an impact or things that you'll be able to look into, right? And that's about it. So, to conclude, I think these are the things that matter. As you're graduating with whatever time you have left, please ensure that your CGPA is sort of above a certain cutoff level. I'm sure you're aware of what the cutoffs are. I think in my time it was 7 because um, the job market was pretty harsh. But a 7.5 and above, I think, is manageable for everyone at BITS and for most people. And let's say in the unfortunate circumstance that you're not able to do this, I'd strongly recommend building your competence through projects and SOPs, because at the end of the day, this is what matters. Like, even if you don't end up with a really high paying and awesome job at the start, sort of showing the people that you're able to execute ideas well is what matters at the end of the day. Um, and coming to the red ticket, this is very important. And worst case, what I mean by worst case scenario planning is accept things not working out. You live in a very difficult time. Like we've all graduated in a very difficult time, and it's sort of like this AI revolution. So, sort of accept things not working out your way and then move forward. It makes it easier to progress, right? And it makes it less overwhelming, less anxious. For example, and this is something that I sort of accepted. And if I apply for masters, this is my thought process. My worst case scenario, if I apply for a master's in the US, is going to the US but not coming back with a job, right? That is my worst case. And I am sort of like, if I apply, I will be okay with it, because if I go there, I would go there for the experience and like the professors and the students and what I get to learn from that specific institute, right? So having this acceptance sort of makes it easier to apply later on, and that's about it. For any decision you make, sort of think about the worst case and think about what you do if it doesn't work out your way. And plan ABC 3 times is always have a plan ABC. And if you truly think about it, what happens in college is you try your hand at like 4 to 5 different things. And when all 5 of these things don't work out, you feel that you failed consistently. But the issue is you've given it like 1/5 for like all of these 5 things, right? So what I've noticed in life, and this is what my dad has told me, is when you give it more than like 60 to 70% of your effort, one of these plans always works out, right? And there are very few, and times three means there will be scenarios in life where ABC, none of your plans work out despite everything having done from your end is correct, but that's okay. That will happen max 3 times. So you will truly fail 3 times in the pursuit of something, and it's heavily unlikely that you'd fail more than these number of times. So when you think about it in that way, it sort of gets easier, right? And a last sort of piece of advice before I sort of log off is chase your competence over skill. If you're in a privileged position wherein you don't have to worry about money, right? Highly follow this. Please don't chase brands. Like everyone ends up in the same place eventually in like for 10 or 20 years time. Everyone who's put in the effort and is consistent ends up in almost a similar place in life. So right now, if you want to be a differentiator, build the competence and go to places that sort of offer you this. And yeah, that's about it. So thank you for sparing the time, and that's it from my end.
Thanks for your views, Pratik. Uh, Up next, we have Bhavya Narayanan, who is currently working as a product manager at Big Basket. Over to you, Bhavya.
Thanks, guys. I hope you can hear me and see me clearly.
Yes.
Sure. Okay, I'll just go ahead and present. Uh, I will be talking more than referring to my presentation because it's a little hodgepodge. So let's start, I guess. Just a second. All right. So, hello, everybody. Good morning, and hope you've had a great day till now. So, before I go ahead, I'd also like to commend Pratik's presentation. He's covered almost a lot of things that I want to talk about. So, he's made my job very easy moving forward. So, what I'll do to differentiate myself is present this entire why job and why not masters right now on a very non-core perspective, given that I've had a good bunch of experiences in the non-core segment of the industry. So let's go on. Just a brief introduction of who I am. I'm Bhavya, and I currently work as a product associate at Big Basket. So let's go on to understand my journey of how I got here. So yeah, so I started off doing multiple things in college. I am a dual degree student in physics and electronics and instrumentation engineering. So I came to bits as a big fan of physics, and I was wide-eyed and all bright-eyed when I came, looked at the labs, and was like, wow, physics is something that I'd like to do. And then I moved on to doing things within clubs on campus. I joined multiple clubs, explored a lot of things, and I narrowed it down to two main clubs. The first club that I worked in very strongly was the Bitskoa Consulting Club, and the second one was the GDSC. I was the second chapter lead of Bitskoa, and those were my two positions of responsibility. As far as internships go, I was a part of the developer society on campus. So via that, I picked up some coding and UX. So I managed to get my first internship in my second year as a UX designer at a Canadian startup called Pawsense. I worked for them for about a year or so and built their product from the scratch, made investor pitches, and then I moved on out from them and started exploring new things. Before I get more deeper into my journey, um, I'd like to go on and tell you what are the few key elements that one must notice at their nascent stages when they are in college, say their first and second year. So, what I think a journey to a PM looks like is something of this sort. The first thing which comes with priority is your extracurriculars, second thing is your internships, and third thing is your academics. So why am I putting with this in this order? When you have to find a job, especially in non-core, you're not taught things as a part of your courses to do the exact job that you'd be expected to do as a product manager at a very front end facing company. So you're expected to pick up very soft skills, which the company will then notice and train you to be able to do the job better. So extracurriculars and internships make you do two main things. Extracurriculars help you to interact with people, build soft skills, and also thereby hone your ability to be able to present yourself very well, which is very important as a product manager, given that you'll be working with multiple stakeholders. What do internships do? If you take very specific PM or UX or development internships, it exposes you to the environment of how jobs actually work. So that builds your skill level and also your ability to be able to do the job very well finally. So that's the reason why I put these two in priority. And academics does come into the picture. You have to be able to manage all these things along with academics. That shows how able you are as a individual to juggle a lot of things at the same time. So that's the reason why I have put up these three things. Now, moving on to how do you get there, right? How do you get to being a good, being a person who is job ready? So I'd like to circle back to my journey, and I will map the things that I did from my first to fourth year, and kind of give you an idea of how you could plan your upcoming college life to be able to be comfortable at least in your fourth year. So I'm a 5-year student, so I had an extra year. So dualites, don't cry about your courses being too hard. You have a boon of extra time. You have a boon of seeing how your batchmates are doing things and tweak your behavior on that basis. So keep that in mind. And single degree students, don't worry. I hopefully will be able to shed some light in helping you prepare a little in advance to be able to do a little better than people who are not informed of all this. So just those caveats in. First things first, make sure to be a immaculate planner. Make sure to have a vision of what you want to do, what do you want to be, who do you want to be, and what do you want to achieve by at least your second year mid. It's okay to be confused, but have a segment of things that you would like to do and like not to do. That's very important. So getting to my journey out here, so in my first year I had joined around 7 clubs. Two of them were technical clubs. Three of them were technical clubs. The Abitsqua Consulting Club, the Developer Society, and I think ERC. So in the Developer Society, I picked up Flutter, Java, and all those things and made my first app. And while doing that, I realized that, hey, development's kind of boring, but I do like the idea of putting things together. I do like the idea of how things flow together. So that gave birth to the UX designer in me. And the first app that I made to join as the core in the club, I had learned Figma for that. So through that skill set, I was able to find a find an internship, a paid internship at this Canadian firm at the mid of my second year. So that's what helped me by looking at all clubs. And at the consulting club, I had done a few client-facing projects. So that got me well versed with go-to-market strategies, basic planning of how do you, talk to a client, how do you make presentations, which is a very important skill to have, at least in your nascent stages of life. So that got me interested in consulting as well. I started looking up about how management consulting works, how case studies work, and all of those things towards the end of my first year. So first year done, I had a bunch of personal projects. I had done this one app, which was functional on my phone as well as Figma. And I had done a bunch of live projects with the consulting club. So that worked out well for me. Now, coming to my second year, this is where two things become important: your skill set and your academics, right? So for in your second year, especially science students, your dual degree students, it's time you start cozying up to your professors, go talk to them about their work, get academic projects. These are very important to show that you've been a very balanced individual, did not throw out any opportunities that came up your way. So in my second year, I had started going and talking to professors, understanding projects, and most of my projects were primarily in physics. So I'd done a SOP in my second semester, and then I continuously did SOPs till my fourth year after that. So SOPs, LOPs, and DOPs. So this gave me a good bandwidth to also do research for around a semester. I had interned at Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in my fifth year. So coming to that a little later. So yeah, this crux being, in your second year, make sure to not let go of your academics, especially dual degree students. This is the time where you can improve your grades, and grades do matter. How much ever people talk about, grades do matter. Finally, you will need to be at a good, comfortable position at the end of your graduation, so that people don't raise eyebrows about why you're not being a great you've not done very well in academics. So as a dual degree student, make sure to spend a good deal of time studying in your second year and improving your grades, so that you have an embankment made for the drop that you will notice in your third year. And for single degree students, this is the time when things become very hard for you. So make sure to prepare yourself for all the things that come your way, both internships, academics, and everything. Take ownership at clubs. Start finding out 2-3 clubs where you enjoy the work at, and narrow down your interests there, and start showing some amount of interest. Pick one club and apply for PORs. So I done 2 PORs, one in my third year, one in my fourth year, and pick a technical and a non-technical club for a POR. So GDSC was technically a technical POR, and Bitcoin Consulting Club was a non-core club. But however, that also helps build your resume. So that's what I did in my second year. Coming to your third year, academic projects become important, because you will have to make sure that SOPs and LOPs float your GPA, and start making your portfolio at this point. This is when you start becoming serious about SIPs. So you will start noticing how things pan out when you start coming to campus and seeing everybody crying about SIPs. So you will have to be prepared beforehand. Understand which segment do you want to go in. PM generally does not come for SIPs. It's mostly consulting or one of those non-core roles. So if consulting SIPs come, do apply for them, because they'll help you a lot for your full-time PM roles. So BCG had come during my fourth year, basically, which is a single degree student's third year, and we had a lot of case interviews that we had to prepare for. So I spent around a month preparing for case interviews, and that really helped me crack my SIP at Nation with Namo, which was a policy internship. So diversity also makes a big mark in your resume when you apply for a PM role, because it's again a very diverse job. So that's what I did in my fourth year. And your internships must talk about what sort of work you've done. It should show impact. So that's overall the idea of building your portfolio to get there. So by the end of your fourth year, you should have a clear idea of where you want to kind of put your foot in and where you want to be working at, so that you do not have issues when it comes to applying for jobs later on. So by the end of your fourth year, you should also be ready to prepare for your interviews, be able to talk to people well, and have a very good, well-written resume. A major point here, make sure that when you do things, write them down somewhere and start putting them together on a resume. When you come to your second, third year, the PU will give you access to Superset, and the Superset resume works very well. So start putting things together, make a building out of all the blocks that you've you know grown over the period of your college life, and make sure they talk about a story of your journey. So that's about how to get there. Specific to PM, just to throw a few things, you will be asked very design specific questions, product redesign questions, and you will be also asked about your favorite product. So these are major questions, but cross the road when you get there. So why not masters? So I would be preferring my an MBA over a MS or a PhD, given that my work at TIFR, I could kind of sense how PhDs and master students work, and the extreme importance of academia did not appeal to me. So I sidelined the option of research and masters in science after my time at TIFR and ISE. So the only option left behind was MBA. Why not MBA now? So MBA is a professional degree again, right? So it's always good to have an exposure of a good work environment and understand how the industry works before stepping into an MBA and then joining the corporate ladder again later in life. So once you're equipped with the understanding of how things work, build a good deal of experience in a good company, you'd be able to make a good mark for yourself even in MBA. Right. And coming to MBA programs, most good IIMs prefer that the applicant has a very strong work experience. For IIM A, it's somewhere around, they take freshers as well, but it's somewhere around 1 to 2 years. And IIM B looks for around 4 years of experience. If you're looking to do your MBA abroad, you can do one of two things. You can either apply for a deferred MBA program, or you could also wait 4 years and apply later. So it's always good to have work experience before you do an MBA. And yeah, and moreover, I just wanted to break from academics. So that's the idea behind it. So yeah, I think that's most of what I had to talk about. If anyone has questions, I'd love to take them. And thank you for taking out the time and listening to me.
Am I audible now? Yeah.
Yes.
That was really helpful, Bhavya. Next up, we have with us Asim Janeja, product manager at Foreignal.
Hi everyone, my name is Asim and I'm a product manager at Alan. More importantly, I'm a proud Bitcoin just like all of you. I'll just present my screen so that we can. Cool. Thank you, Bhavya, for that excellent session. I'm sure everyone here got some great takeaways about your journey to Big Basket. Product manager has become such a natural part of how I introduce myself now. But I want to be honest with all of you. 6 years ago, sitting where you are, I had absolutely no idea what a product manager even did. I want to start with something important. You're surrounded by people who are genuinely smart, curious, and ambitious. That's not something you find everywhere. I know it might not feel like it when you're struggling with your thermodynamics assignment or when placements feel intimidating. But trust me, the intellectual environment we have here at BITS is something you'll only truly appreciate after you graduate. I still remember those SIP days. Companies would come to campus, and I would look at those job descriptions thinking, why would anyone hire me? My friends and I in DS2 would joke around saying, "Bhai, हमें कोई नौकरी क्यों ही देगा?" We felt so unprepared, so ordinary. But here's what's crazy. By final placements, most of us were sitting with multiple offers, choosing between companies we once thought were totally out of league. And that transformation happens to almost everyone here. And it's not the magic we talk about. I'm not saying this so that all of you can just sit back and relax, which gives you the foundation, but you have to build on it. This is your time to experiment, to try out things you've never done before, to discover what actually excites you rather than assuming what you think should excite you. Okay, a quick poll. Raise your hands if you think you are even slightly interested in PM as a career. Awesome. There are around 4 to 5 folks. I hope I'm not addressing the wrong audience, but I assume a bit of you are lazy and not raising your hands. Cool. So today I want to show you one path, the product management journey, not because it's the only path, but because it's been an incredible ride for me. And maybe, just maybe, it will spark something in one of you, maybe one amongst the four of you who raised hands. But before I show you where this journey led, let me take you back to where it all actually started, right there in college. 2018, I entered college. I entered bits just like all of you. Everything felt overwhelming. I had no idea what product was. Honestly, I was just surviving the first semester and doing all the fun musty that I wanted to do during JEE preparation. You know what I mean. Finally having a social life, staying up late, not because of studies, but because of friends, exploring the campus and doing everything that you wanted to do. 2019, this was my first leadership experience. I got elected as a general secretary, which taught me something crucial: how to understand what people actually need versus what they say they want. That's basically product management in a nutshell. And then came my PS1 at QMath. I had no idea that was also sort of a product internship, but I was doing what my manager told me to do since it was my first stint in out there in industry. 2020, the pandemic year, this is when I first heard the term PM properly. I started exploring, taking mentorship from seniors, joined boot camps like Doraemon Dan, Unlearn Product. I was doing all sorts of case studies on internet, trying to understand what PMs actually do. And then in mid 2020, I did something that changed things for me. I started cold emailing companies, and that led to an internship at Adda Apartments. No campus placements, no reference, just a cold email explaining why I wanted to work there. They said yes, and suddenly I was building real solutions during the COVID time. 2021 was time for refinement. I joined placement unit as a coordinator, basically helping other students with what I was still figuring out myself. But parallelly, I kept doing mock interviews. I did 50 plus mock interviews along with my placement coordinator role. I also did an SDA internship at nurture.farm as my PS2. Why software? Because I realized that to be a good PM, I needed to understand how tech actually works. And finally, 2022, I interned at Winzo, getting even more diverse product experience. By now, I wasn't doing just random internships, I was strategically building a portfolio of experiences. The result, by mid 22, when I graduated, I had multiple offers and joined Sprinkler as a product analyst. Now, why this entire journey? Here's what I want you to notice about this journey. I didn't have some master plan back in 2018. I was just curious. I said yes to opportunities, and I wasn't afraid to try new things. The cold email to Adda, that was pure desperation during COVID. The SD internship, that was because I realized I had a knowledge gap. The point is, your PM journey does not start after graduation. It starts right here, right now, with the choices you make in college. So, let me show you where this journey leads to you post college. So this is my post graduation journey, 5 years from my first intern to where I'm today. After those college internships, I joined Sprinkler as a product analyst, and I stayed there for almost 2 years, growing from analyst to senior analyst to associate product manager. At Sprinkler, I learned what enterprise softwares actually mean. I learned how to work with massive clients, how to handle complex technical requirements, how to think in systems and not just features. And then I made my first strategic move, Unify Apps as a product manager. This was about taking ownership of entire product line and not just features. It was about building something from scratch rather than optimizing something that already existed. And now I'm at Alan as a product manager. This is where I'm thinking about markets, not just products. I'm solving problems across borders. Literally, we are building fintech solutions for the Middle East. But titles and companies are not conveying the real story that I want to convey. What's actually exciting is what you actually solve in these roles. Let me show you the real problems I get to work on. Starting with internships. At QMath, I designed a notification system for students from class 3 to class 10. Think about it. How do you communicate to a parent of a third grader versus a 10th grader? Second, at Winzo, I researched how they could build an astrology arm like AstroTalk. This meant I actually spoke to astrologers, some from Haridwar, some online astrologers, to understand how the market really works. What do users actually want from astrology apps? How do traditional astrologers think about digital platforms? This is pure business strategy mixed with some real field research. At Adda, during COVID, apartment owners were struggling with new challenges. How do you track quarantined residents? How do you enable contactless entry at society gates when everyone's afraid to touch surfaces? Adda's client were apartment complexes who were desperate for such solutions, and I got to build tools that directly helped communities stay safe during the pandemic. Then at Sprinkler, which was my first role after college, the scale and complexity jumped dramatically. As a product analyst, I worked on improving voice AI accuracy for some massive clients like HDFC, Samsung, Boat headphones, Lenskart. When you improve accuracy by even 2%, that's thousands of customers getting better support every day. As a senior analyst, I focused on business metrics, specifically boosting the number of calls handled by voice bots. This is where you start seeing business impact. Every improvement means companies can handle more customers with the same resources. Case in point, Boat headphones voice bot was successfully resolving 52% of calls every day without even involving a human representative. Up next, as an APM, I integrated eBay's support messages into Sprinkler's platform. And then comes Unify Apps. At Unify Apps, the scope expanded to entire platforms. We built a no-code platform that lets enterprises build applications without writing a single line of code. The impact was good. We built gold loan app for leading jewelry outlets in South India on top of that platform. We helped them digitize their entire loan process. We created a sales dashboard for a software company in US, giving them real visibility into their pipeline and so on. And now at Alan, I'm thinking in terms of entire financial ecosystem. On one side, I'm building cross-border payments platform. When a UAE company wants to pay to a vendor in India, your product makes that seamless. You're literally connecting global economies. On the other side, I'm scaling accounting modules to help accountants close their books faster. Now see the progression. I started with improving user experience as the product analyst, then added business impact, then technical complexities, and then you're thinking about entire markets and ecosystem. So as a PM, you're not just building features, you're solving problems that actually matter. And the best part is no 2 days are the same. One day you're analyzing user data, the next you're debugging APIs with your engineers, the very next day you are presenting some product strategies to the CEO. So this is what's waiting for you out there: real problems, real impact, and real change. Now, let me reiterate what Bhavya covered in the start. Top three takeaways. Point number one: leverage college roles. Look for PORs in clubs, fest, CSA, PU, departments as well, because they'll teach you how to communicate. They teach you how to solve problems, and that's what matters in the start. Second, gain experiences. Don't wait for the perfect opportunities. I cold emailed Adda, no connections, just interest. Apply to startups, join boot camps, do projects. The goal is not perfection, it's learning to think like a PM. Third, understand tech. You don't need to code, but you need to know what's possible. Learn AI tools, understand APIs, automation, get familiar with databases. When you speak engineering language, you become a better PM. But here's the most important takeaway: start now. Don't wait until you're ready, because you'll never feel ready. I didn't feel ready when I cold emailed. I didn't feel ready when I joined Sprinkler, but I did it anyway. Remember that DH2 conversation I mentioned, भाई हमें कोई नौकरी क्यों देगा? The answer is because you're already solving problems, you're already building things, you're you're already making an impact. You just need to start seeing it that way. Your journey does not start after graduation. It starts with the next email you send, the next project you take, the next problem you decide to solve. So go out there, be curious, say yes to opportunities, and don't be afraid to reach out to anyone. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thanks for the insights, Asim. Um, Finally, we have Urvi Marquino working at Slumberger Technology Services India as a mechanical engineer. Over to you, Urvi.
Hello, hi everyone. Good afternoon. Let me share my screen and then I can start. Just let me know once my screen is visible. Yeah. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm Urvi and I'm currently working as a mechanical engineer at Schlumberger, now known as SLB. A brief background about myself. So, I graduated last year from BITS Goa, and I was majoring in mechanical. I did my PS1 from Blue Star Limited, so it's an HVAC company. I think mech people would be aware of. Then in my fourth year, I did my thesis, my like research internship from IIT Bombay. And during college, I was involved in a couple of clubs and departments. But like eventually, I just like in my third year, I was like fully involved with ROD, and I was the projects head there. Now currently I'm working as a mechanical engineer at SLB's Technology Center in Pune. So I'm based in Pune right now, and I work in the critical equipment team of their reservoir performance division. So I'll just start with my placement journey, and here I've also mentioned an MS. So when I was in my third year, so and even like before that, I was pretty sure that I wanted to do a master's, and not go for a job. So when I was in my third year, I started preparing for my masters as well. Like I started giving the TOEFL, the GRE, and all of that. But simultaneously, like I think so. Also, Prateek mentioned to like having a backup option. So I was also like preparing, and I decided to sit for placements as well. But yeah, initially I was inclined on doing a master, so I'll just explain later like how that decision changed, and yeah, what led me to not pursuing a master's and going for a job. So coming to the timelines, like I think so all of you would be aware, like by the end of your third year, you have to go for a like either a PS or a research internship. So yeah, I did go for a research internship for my thesis at IIT Bombay, but at that time I was preparing, like I was preparing for my applications like for my masters, and I was also giving out like all of the tests and assessments which we were having at our in the college. So the only good thing about me doing a thesis was like and like so basically, as you all are aware that we have a rule that you cannot sit for placements if you're doing, yeah, like your PS1 in that sem. So what worked out for me at that point was I was since mechanical companies, they come in the first sem. So technically I wasn't I wasn't allowed to sit in, I shouldn't have been allowed to sit in the first sem placements. But since I was doing a remote thesis and I was available to come on campus anytime if there are any interviews or assessment scheduled, I opted for the sem 1 placement. So that is when the mechanical companies come on campus. So yeah, so first sem was mainly juggling between my my placement prep and my master's applications. So I was like, yeah, trying to do both of those simultaneously. Then I think so the first offer which I got was from L&T, and that was in November. So that was the first offer which I got during the placement season. And yeah, so but somewhere I was like still like not, I mean, very satisfied. So again, like I didn't like completely I was like still wasn't completely okay that if I should go for a job there, or should I still continue with my, I mean, my initial idea of going for a master's. But then in February, when Shlambaji like they came for placements, and I got my second offer from SLB in Feb. So and that was also the same time I started getting my MS admits. And yeah, and again I had to make a final call of whether to go for a master's or like go for a job. So I did a lot of research of what and yeah, I wasn't really aware of what SLB did at that time, because like previously in the previous years they were only coming for the field engineer roles, and they hadn't really come for a mechanical engineer role at their technology center. So I wasn't really aware of what the job would actually look like. But yeah, I did my research, I spoke to a few seniors who had like previously worked as field engineers as well. And yeah, so like around mid March was when I finally decided to not go for a master's and go for a job. And there were a couple of reasons why I took that call, like initially being so keen on going for a master's and but then switching to a job. was firstly when I researched about the company and when I spoke to people. I like my like I was still confused whether it would be a good choice for me because mechanical roles in India are not very good. But when I spoke about the kind of work people were doing here, it like again affirmed me that I can like look at going for a job. And secondly, like SLB was a US based company, so my second thought was obviously like if it's a US based company and and I have an experience of like working here for 2 years, it would like obviously help when I apply for a master's later. So that was another reason why I chose to like go for a job. And thirdly, again, going for a master's is it's a huge investment. And yeah, I mean, getting the ROI out of it was again a big question mark, considering the considering what situation was going on in the US. So that again like deflated my idea of going for a master's then. And lastly, I mean, lastly, for my long term goals, I wasn't really keen on going for a PhD or getting into academia or getting fully into research. So I always wanted to work in the industry. And when I also spoke to a couple of professors here, and even they told me that an industrial experience is, I mean, it's really good. It's something really good to have. So, and if I wasn't really planning going for a PhD in the future, so going for a job would be a better choice. So that is how I basically finally decided, and yeah, I decided to join SLB. Uh, yeah. Then coming to my journey so far. So, does anyone does anyone have any questions? I can hear some. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So coming to my responsibilities here at SCSI, so I'm basically a part of the technology lifecycle management division of the company. So what we do is we work on sustaining the tools which SLB already has. So that includes all of the following, which I've like kind of mentioned in the slide. So you get a better idea of what a mechanical engineer does in the day to day job. So we provide, and also those of you who don't know, so SLB is an oil and gas service company. So we basically help other companies like Exxon, BP, Shell to take out the oil, I mean, from the reservoirs. So yeah, if some of you who didn't know what we did, so yeah, so we are involved in providing field and asset and tool support to all of our locations globally. And again, uh, we work on we work on some of so like each portfolio has a certain amount of tools and assets under them. So we work on the product design, their reviews, their compliance assessment, their deployment and testing, and finally we work on maintaining their assembly and maintenance cycle throughout a tool's life cycle. So this is the core job which I do on a day-to-day basis. Apart from that, we also have a lot of secondary duties on a day-to-day basis, which isn't very core specific. But yeah, since you are the owner of a particular product or a portfolio, you have to do everything from reply. So yeah, you have to do everything from like supply chain to like sorting out manufacturing issues, sorting out field issues, and like all of that for that particular tool. The skills and technical requirements would I would suggest, which I've like some of these are like obviously it would be part of your coursework. So the majority of the coursework when like which you studied throughout your degree is, yeah, obviously that is a must have. But some of the technical skills which I particularly work upon and use on a day-to-day basis are like part and assembly modeling. That is very, very, very crucial for, I mean, my role. Then a very thorough knowledge of PDM and PLM applications. So again, we don't use them while we are doing our undergrad, but once if like if you are going for any internships or, yeah, in your PS2, make sure to master like any PDM or PLM applications that you might be using there. So PDM basically stands for product document management, and PLM is product lifecycle management. So these are like two different kind of applications which we use on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, we need to be very thorough and like need to basically know them inside out. And then again, we have a product specific knowledge which we got once we got into the company. So because since they have a very big portfolio, so and I'm a part of a very, I mean, yeah, a very up, like not like obviously we don't know all of the tools which SLB basically makes, but yeah, the ones which we work on. So that is like as and when you join the company, and you'll be getting trainings on that, like inside out trainings of that particular product. There are some other business applications which might be company specific that you would be using on a day-to-day basis. So I haven't covered them here, but that would be again that you would be learning them on the job. So I didn't find it very relevant for this session. But yeah, so that is basically like, yeah, that basically summarizes what I do. Like just to, I mean, close the session with I just had a few more points about my experience up till now. My like since I've been only working here for a year, but my experience here has been like pretty good. And yeah, so again, why to emphasize on the fact that why you should like go for a job and not for a master's right now is like, firstly, I saw a lot of things when I started actually working. I saw a lot of things that came into play in like real time. So earlier when you are in college, maybe you don't get a broader perspective of how things actually work. But once I started working here, I could get a bigger picture of why we do certain things, why we run certain analysis. I mean, again, weighing down your options, doing and if like in simpler terms, weighing the pros and cons of one design over the other. So that is how I actually came to know how the decisions were being taken real time. So that is one thing I really liked out of my job. Secondly, it also helped me, I mean, take ownership of projects, of products, which is which is like something which we don't do in our call like during during your undergrad. And it kind of, yeah, again, it kind of like boosts your self confidence, and again on your abilities of how much can you actually yeah, how much can you actually take up and deliver. So that was again one thing, like taking up ownership of things and understanding all processes in and out to deliver a certain like completing certain milestones during your projects. Then I got to meet a lot of people in the industry, and I got to see how diverse their career paths were. And I've seen mechanical engineers working in many different areas once they progress in your careers. It's not only restricted to core. And again, while you're on the job, since you need to do a lot of different things to see your final product in play. So you get to explore a lot of different areas, like and again, I wanted to emphasize on the fact that everything I learned during my undergrad, like it seemed very trivial at that time, like why are we learning this, or what is the use of this. But now I see everything coming into play. And again, it helped me develop developing a point of view of looking looking at things from a, I mean, a business point of view. So that was, I mean, I think that was really, I mean, helpful for me. So like even in the future, if I now I can maybe think of doing an MBA too. But yeah, that was another thing which like kind of I learned on like on this journey, like which I've been on for a year. Yeah, I think that's all I had to share. If there is anything else, we can take up uh, some more questions. But yeah, feel free to ask if you want to ask anything.
Okay, so I would like to thank all the speakers for sharing such honest and insightful experiences. Let's now move into the Q&A session and keep the conversation going. For those in the chat, feel free to drop the questions.
Okay, so first of all, this question is to all the panelists over here. You all discussed about in your undergrad opportunity, in your undergrad time, you did some research opportunities also, maybe in your PS or thesis or something like that, like a fellowship or an off-campus project. So, what role did that have in choosing where you are right now? And also, how did seniors, I mean, like, how did talking to seniors help you get convinced that yes, jobs is right for me if you had that conviction?
Um, does anyone want to take this up, or I think I'd like to share my thoughts on this? So the thing is, you this again boils down to the point that you can't really try everything, right? You have certain interests at the present moment, and whenever you take a decision, it is always necessary that it's a well backed and informed decision. So personally, all of my personal explorations have been out of interest. So, like right now, I'm uh, in the corporate, but having done a research position, I have a very strong grasp of like machine learning and AI, specifically when it's used to solve computer vision and multimodal problems, and that helps me a lot in sort of like the job I'm doing right now, right? And talking to seniors is because uh, no matter which path you take, there is always someone who's successful at it, and there's someone who's failed multiple times and then achieved success, and for someone who it didn't work out. And given that we all start off in an unequal footing, not just in terms of like knowledge, competence, even in terms of like the things that go on in your personal life, right? So it's talking to your seniors sort of gives you an idea of how their story panned out, and whatever you relate from it you can sort of comprehend, and if not you can doubt and like take the same path later on. So the main reason why you talk to your seniors is because the reality and the hype of things are vastly different. So whatever roles you hear about, you only hear the good stuff and like exaggerated things about it, but the core reality of it is often very different from what is advertised. So when you talk to an alum who is very open to you about things, then it sort of puts into perspective what you can expect in the real world, right? That's the whole reason you do it.
Just to add on to what Pratik said, given my experience is slightly very different from what work I'm doing, I was doing research in 2D materials that's very specific to physics, and my work is in product management. I basically sell grocery, so it relates nowhere, right? So, to kind of give you a different flavor of what sort of problems you can have especially as a person with multiple interests, I'd like to shed some idea into why doing a research internship or a thesis actually added a lot of weight to my ability to do well at my job and, in the first place, get the job. So, if you could recall, I'd mentioned that in my presentation, I'd mentioned academic uh, achievements play a big role in getting a good non-core job specifically. So if you're not able to top your grades, if you're not able to get a 9 or a 8.5 or a 8.7, you should be able to back it up with some sort of inkling that's to say that, okay, I am interested in certain things, but I am not going to do it for a certain reason. So that was my specific ethos. I knew I was good at physics. I knew there was a segment of physics which I was good at, specifically speaking, semiconductor and 2D material physics, experimental physics, to be honest. So I did the SOPs on campus, and with the help of my SOPs, I was able to land an internship in ISC, a summer internship in ISC, which played a great weight during my SIP selections. So showing that you interned at a great institute, doing research there, doing academia there itself proves that you have a certain set of caliber. And talking beyond the resume, there are skill sets that you learn in academia basis things like reading things, connecting two papers to each other, knowing when to stop reading a certain particular article when it gets out of hand. These are small skills that you learn through the process of doing research. And to kind of conclude as to why I did not pick research, I'd always been interested in getting a job that would probably make me, I feel that short term goals make me more satisfied. Research is a long con. You need to be there, out there, making a way for yourself, making small bricks that add up to become a big part of an ocean. So if you are a very persevering human being who can, wait patiently for years to come to look for your final outcome, then research is for you. But particularly speaking, I was not that sort of a person, and both ISC and TIFR showed to me very starkly that though I might be good at, say, fabricating a particular device, I might not be good waiting for it to work the way I want to work. I want it to work. So these are things you learn only with experience. And coming to the point of talking to seniors, my thesis journey was something that I heavily relied on my seniors for. Specifically, professors also help a lot. If you have a good contact with a good professor, make sure to talk to them about where you should be applying before you just listen to it. Seniors make a good point out there, but it's also good to talk to professors to understand if you want to apply for research internships. uh, Seniors help you put things into perspective because they've gone through the entire journey themselves. Like how Pratik mentioned, it's always a more holistic view of what happened to them, and you can talk to multiple people who failed, people who succeeded, people who did something random altogether, and it will add up ultimately. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, so there's this question in the chat that does finance or supply chain minor help in PM rules?
I do not have a finance minor, neither do I have a supply chain minor. And if I might not be a great person to answer this question, but I don't think that not having either of those is impeding my job. So that would be my answer. But I think Asim would be more, qualified to make that answer.
Agreed with what Bhavya said. It's not like having a finance degree or not having a finance minor is going to impact anything in your PM journey. But knowing the word of finance helps you enter the fintech industry relatively easier. So let's say you're interviewing for a company like Grow or CoinSwitch or maybe Alan. Uh, if you have done a finance minor, you have that language of how the finance world works. So it makes it relatively easier. But again, the percentage impact of having these is very low compared to doing other things. But again, depends on your interest. If you feel that you enjoy learning all of these things, go ahead. Maybe you get a career path outside of PMing, and that's it.
Just to add on there, I think finance in general, especially the way it's taught in bits, helps you get into places like UBS, JPMC, and other places. So, if you're really interested to move in that sort of a segment, it makes sense to sit for a finance minor. I myself debated for an entire semester if I should sit for a finance minor over my internship at ISC. And to date, I can really confirm that my internship at ISC has helped me more than a finance minor has helped people who were there at the same state I was in. I haven't done any courses for PM. I got my internship through PSD. So if you start off with an internship and end as a try converting it into a full time, it is more easier because they look at your work before they look at your capabilities. So yeah, I think Asim would be able to answer this better as well.
I was on the desperate side. I did every possible course that I could get just to understand how things work and to connect with people in the same industry. So, the benefit of joining these cohorts you see on the internet is you build connections, you get to learn from their experiences. In my second year, I remember I had a cohort wherein there was a PM from Reliance Geo, there was a PM from Walmart who joined that bootcamp along with me. So that is something that really helped me in my entire journey so far, even today. I have connections that I built in college during that course cohort that I still refer to. So I am a huge advocate of doing cohorts, boot camps, courses in college, even for PM or any course in general. It can be a tech course as well that might help you learn how SQL works, how software works, how to build an AI tool, or anything in general. You are in college to study, so go ahead and join any course that you feel relevant.
Just to add on to what Asim said, I had taken no courses in SQL, I had taken no courses in PM, and towards this first half of my internship, I really struggled with SQL. So, if anything, I would surely recommend a basic SQL course. You can. Many people suggest W3, W3 schools for SQL. I think that's pretty good. You don't pay for it either, so it's pretty good. So, apart from the things that he mentioned, the consulting club helped me a lot to be able to get to the position of where I was at least in my fifth year. I'd done multiple live projects, which kind of simulated a lot of PM jobs. So you can try, if you're in your first year, your second year, try to apply to clubs that give you real time experience and exposure to things. So yeah, I think that would help. Also, taking the point on PORs, I think they're very essential. Having a POR helps you not only understand how large teams work, but also how you can be an effective manager, which you would ultimately do being a PM. So that's really important for you to learn at a very young stage in your life. And with PORs come a lot of politics, which you will enter the corporate ladder, corporate, and see how it is there. So before you get jarred as you enter as a fresher, if you see a bit of it as a college student fighting for your position in the club, that will give you a very good trailer to how life is ahead. So yeah, that would be something that would be important as a person who's in a position of responsibility.
So one small point, I think a core thumb rule for any you'll have a lot of questions like this, right? There are a lot of things that can affect. So for PM specifically, does it help you display competence when it comes to managing people and conveying ideas? If the answer to that is yes, then go ahead with that opportunity. So, then you can sort of put it in a ranking of what is more impactful. But this is the core of it.
Just adding to it, I believe having PORs for the sake of resume should not be thought in your second or third year. Do it for fun, do it to enjoy your college life. My entire college life was all about handling all these PORs. I was a hostel representative in first year, a general secretary in second and third year, a placement coordinator in fourth year. But none of these decisions were because I can become a PM. I didn't even knew that I want to be a PM. All these PORs was because I wanted them. I enjoyed doing all of these things. I wanted to look cool in college, holding these PORs. So I hope that that craze is still there, and it's not for job that you're looking for a POR.
Yeah, like I agree with what Asim told, and like all the I mean the crux of having a POR, like if you want to have it from a resume point of view, but yeah, it basically showcases like apart from your like only academy and all of that, if you're able to handle in additional responsibilities and like contribute in a, I mean, a non-profit way, like just for like building up your own community. So I think that should be your sole like reason for like having a POR, like if you want to take up one, and even that should showcase when you are like when you're interviewing. And I think so that is what like yeah, recruiters look for.
Any other questions? I see one from Naman. Naman, it's super broad. Like I can help you with it if we connect personally. Like I'm same CS student, confused job masters. Sort of 80% of CS grads go through what you're going in bits. So you can message me personally if it aligns with someone. I can connect you with like a batchmate or a senior who I spoke to. So
Kriti has a question. Nowadays, there's a lot of talk about prod tech roles. How is it different from PM? Uh, I'm not sure what prod tech role means here. If you can just elaborate more on it, happy to answer.
are you talking about a technical product manager or something like that? Like a TPM?
Product and tech together.
I
I'm
don't
not.
think product goes without tech in the first place. If you don't understand how systems work, at least in your first 2 months of being a product manager, you become obsolete to an extent. So, I think what you're referring to is what Pratik said, a technical product manager, right? So
So
that's
the
yeah.
thing is, like as a product manager, the product you manage depends on the industry. Like what you're referring to, I think being a product manager in a tech company, right? That is something that I've also looked into. So the thing is, that's another reason why I joined a startup, because personally, I love ideating about how a product evolves, which is sort of aligns with what a PM does. But this extrapolating to a big tech, a PM becomes more and more strategy oriented. But I love tech. Like I'm a huge geek and nerd. You talk to anyone in college, I'd just be overworked all the time doing some random project. So I love tech and I didn't want to like let go of it right now. So that is why I'm sort of in a startup wherein I'm getting exposed to both the PM side of it and like I'm getting to implement the technical part of it. But know this, that when you go into a big tech company, a product and tech become different, right? Product role is seen as a managerial role wherein you're ideating about a technical product, but it is pure management. It is like a problem statement. Regardless of the industry, you have some common skill sets which you apply to sort of solve it, you know, and it gets segregated. So if you want to see the holistic thing, I'd recommend sort of going into good performing startups, right? Do your R&D well. Like the thing with a startup is it's a very risky bet. If the founders and the culture is not appropriate, you'll end up doing more harm to yourself than like learning. So I think that's about it.
Adding some personal experiences on this. I was a CA student, but unlike Pratik, I was totally opposite of him. Not someone who really enjoyed attending the DSA lab or participating in any of those such things. But I enjoyed knowing how tech works, learning how things are being built here and there. Joining Sprinkler, I joined in the voice AI team. You can somehow call it a technical product manager role. My metric was the accuracy of a AI model. We calculated in WER, word error rate. Similarly, as a senior product analyst, my product was VoiceBot, and my metric was now a business metric, basically the number of calls handled by VoiceBot. But it was again purely you had to go with your data science teams, understand how different models are working, understand which ones is overperforming versus underperforming, and accordingly fine tune things. So that is what my smaller knowledge helped me. At Unify Apps, I was building a no code platform for building applications, which involved I had to write some small Python scripts to build few automations. If you have used tools like Zapier, you would understand that you can build a fairly good automation even by just writing a small scripts, and rest of the things can be just plugged and played. So in both these roles at Unify Apps and Sprinkler, tech played a huge role, but it was not tech was not my domain as such. There were data scientists and engineers who were actually responsible for improving things. I was only responsible for figuring out what needs to be improved at what time and how, and then eventually communicating that to the business teams and to the clients. So this is what basically comes under the tech PM roles.
I think Lisa has asked a question about a dual degree student, right? So I think I can take up that question. So, right. So I think I mentioned how it will be hard as a dual degree student to do everything at once. And you will have your days of lows, you will have your days of highs. And it's important for you to preempt a lot of these things before it gets there so that you will prepared well in advance as to how hard it's going to be or how easy it's going to be. So your second year as a dual degree student would be, simple in comparison to your single degree friends. They'd all be crying about some random CS lab or some random electronics lab, while you're sitting around chilling in some physics class or some chemistry class, which has no effect whatsoever on your mental sanity. So you will feel very happy in your second year, and that's the time when you use all this extra adrenaline and all those stuff to do things so that you can make a big embankment for your third year where you're going to be like a zombie, right? So your second year becomes important for you to build resilience, build that level of pain-taking ability to do a lot more things further. So second year sometimes the time where you build on the skills that you picked up in your first year, and if you've not learned anything in your first year, start learning skills that are something that makes you more relevant in the job market, right? So people end up doing things like prompt engineering and all that. That's all great. It's small skills to pick up. It helps you to do things faster. But there are things like MS Excel that you need to pick up, SQL that you need to pick up. If you're not a CS student, it's very important for you to pick up SQL because it's going to help you everywhere you go. So Excel and SQL are very important skill sets that you pick up in your second year. You can also pick up things like Figma, Canva. People might say it's very design oriented, but it always helps to have a good design aesthetic, good design sense, and the ability to present your points well to a bunch of people. So if you're able to do all this in your second year and learn a bunch of technical and non-technical skills, you will be good to go. And always make sure to have a internship ready in your second year. Start applying for internships in the second year first semester, so that in your second semester you have something to do. So coming to your third year, you will be drained out. It will be a sudden hit where you will be doing engineering along with science. And trust me, engineering is much, much harder in comparison to science. There are things that will hit you in such a way that you will not know it's coming for you. It will be like a fire ball hitting you from the behind. Your first few classes will be like, bro, I know this, I learned this. And then by the 10th class, you have no clue of what's happening. So it's important for you to be well prepared, go to classes. If you feel your professor makes no sense to you, then make sure to pick one person who goes to class every day. Ask him that, dude, what's up? Tell me what's up. I need to know what's up. And stay up to date. If not going to classes, also stay up to date. You will have bouts of depression, you will have bouts of anxiety, but you will learn how to work with it. My third year was my lowest year. I had done only my internship was the only thing that I was hanging on to. I had an internship that I picked up at the end of my second year, and that is the only thing that was making, something good for me in that entire year. My POR in my third year was in the GDSC. So the club was not a very big club, so it was easy for me to handle things. And most of my friends were my co-PORs, so getting work done was not too hard. So things do happen. If you will have to compartmentalize and save prioritize the tasks you want to do very clearly in your third year, because you will have no energy whatsoever. Fourth year again becomes a lull. If you don't pick up a finance minor, if you pick up a finance minor, best of luck. You're going to be struggling again to breathe. So if you're happy doing that in your third year, then go ahead and pick a finance minor in your fourth year. It might be helpful. And yeah, your fourth year will be something that you should take up another POR if you have the interest at the time. So make sure to be a part of two to three clubs where you really enjoy the work and you really stand a chance of being a head if you're interested in managerial roles. So that would be mostly it. And should I try for internships in the second year? Yeah, I had done my internship along with my PS1. So if you're able to manage it, it's really worth it. So
Adding to what Bhavya said, sorry, Dhananjay. Just want to add a personal experience here. Uh, I till today, one thing that I regret not doing in college is taking courses to learn things rather than taking courses to maybe CG badhane ke liye or to get a job in that particular domain. I regret not taking a finance course, not finance minor, but at least one basic finance course that can help me learn how the world of finance works. Today, when I work for accountants, my users are accountants in Alan. I struggled a lot in initial 2 3 years just to understand कि credit किसको बोलते हैं, debit किसको बोलते हैं, ledger क्या होता है, and things like that. So I had to go back and do take that learning curve and I attended some videos on YouTube to learn all of these things. College was the best time when I could have done all of these things, when there was a CA who used to come to campus to teach students the word of finance. There was another course about speaking skills. I don't remember exactly the name of it, but there was a professor who used to uh, take a 3 credit course wherein they would teach you how to a public speaking course. I regret not doing that, and there are many such courses that I still regret. The reason I didn't do that time because I heard getting a good CGPA in that course is difficult. I heard that maybe taking a SOP where you have to just show up once is a very easier choice. I took 3 SOPs where I did nothing. I just submitted final paper, that too over an email. I took those that helped me have a good CGPA, but CGPA is not helping me at all after placements. Had I taken those courses, I would have got some learnings with me that I could have used. But yeah.
So one last thing, adding on to the points that Bhavya and Asim mentioned. So fine line is, I think, I know there is this urge to know everything, so you sort of hold yourself back that once I become competent, I'll try an opportunity. But the best part about college is you can start without knowing anything. So highly recommend project-based learning. Like this is what I did with Project Rocketry. So if you ask anyone from SEDS in my batch, I just wanted, like, there's this channel called BPS Space wherein he builds self-landing rockets. And I was like, this stuff is insanely cool. So, and I've always been very good at talking my way through, right? Like I can bullshit a lot. So basically, I was able to convince the SEDS PORs to let me start rocketry without having any background in this. And then what happened is 3 weeks, I've never studied this fiercely for any compre in my life. That's how dedicatedly I studied like flight avionics and like control theory. I think I knew more like control systems than most people who did the courses back then. So I did that. And then, like, in the process of one semester, I had a very good knowledge of rocketry avionics and how to build a rocket from scratch. And that was also project, also POR. So 3 things एक shot में हो गया, right? So please do project based learning. If there's something skills you want to pick up, look around, see if there are people you want to do it with. There'll be someone. Okay, don't worry about what people will think of you. Like if you're in your third year and you want to learn SQL, you'll be like, geez, people will judge that. Like as a third year CS grad, if you're not like really good at SQL, what the heck did you do with your life? Like no one cares, bro. At the end of the day, people just judge and like बकचोदी बहुत होती है basically. So most of it is rage bait. So if you want to learn something, put a message. Some curious soul will contact you, get together and do a project, or join a club and do a project. Do project based learning. That's it. Like align it with your skills and do a project.
I completely agree with that. I done around 7 projects in BGCC, and at every interview, even if I had no thing to talk about, I could talk about one project. One company did something, and I did something for that one company. I had some metric associated with that. That's it. People are flat out very happy with the way things have worked out. So projects make a very, very good it also acts as a very good filler if you don't have a lot of things to talk about, because you have done the project, you know what is there in the project, and ultimately you can talk about it enough to convince the person in front of you that you were very, very passionate about something. And if you could show that much amount of passion towards that company, the company would prosper as well. So that's the only way you're able to talk about yourself. So projects play a very big role. And coming to the point that Asim said, I had tried to audit one of the courses in finance. I think it was DRM. I went up, sat in his class after 10 days of the course starting, and I just randomly answered some question, and my answer was wrong. But for the next few weeks, I sat up in his class, and people really thought I was a student who's taking up finance minor. And I stopped attending the class afterwards because I realized it's not for me. So this bits is great in that sense. You just have to find one dude to tag along. If you're not able to get a finance minor, like finance course this year, go find one dude. One of your friends in your friend group will be taking a finance minor. So just go sit with that dude, attend the class, just answer some crap in some class. You will start developing interest yourself. You will go sit in the course, understand what the course is about, and then you can take a very informed decision of whether you want to do a finance minor or not. And I did this in my third year, by the way, when I had 10 classes in a single day. So it's all about how interested you are and how willing you are to break monotony. So, yeah.
All right, I think we are over time a little bit, so we'll probably wrap this up right now. Over to Yatin.
Okay, so I would like to thank all the speakers for sharing such honest and insightful answers and guiding us so much. I'm sure a lot of us are leaving this session with not just clarity, but also some real takeaways on what matters when making these big decisions.
So, yeah, again, thank you to all the speakers here, and we hope the audience got a better sense of what the job path looks like. So, that's a wrap from us, CTE, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you.